Some of y'all might call BS on this one, but I assure you that it is, in fact, a true story. Anybody that knows me will attest to the fact that I have a wall full of backpacks in my man cave. 2016, I decided I needed another one, and I was looking at some high-end packs. I was looking at 3 brands, and I settled on one. That pack worked out well for a few years. Actually, about a year and a half. It wasn't until my buddy Jake killed a cow elk off the end of a ridge that I really learned what that pack was about. Now, that shouldn't have been a tough pack out, but that backpack crushed me. It really, really did not shine with that kind of weight in it. Now, in full disclosure, that winter is when I met Aaron. Aaron got me pointed in the direction of Kifaru. I paid full price for my frame and bag, and that winter and into the spring, I did a lot of training hikes in preparation for an 8-day trip in the Frank Church. That trip came and went, and that pack performed flawlessly. That fall, between myself and friends, I ended up packing out 5 animals. Now I feel like I have enough time under that frame to make a pretty good assessment. That backpack's going to be heavier than any pack that you have. But when you need it, it's not going to let you down. I've got 2 bags now. I've got the 44 mag and the striker. I use the heck out of that striker. It's my everyday pack. And when I'm going for elk or overnight trips, I'm using the 44 mag. If you're in the market for a pack, I would strongly urge you to look at Kifaru, get a hold of Aaron. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Heck, the versatility of that striker pack alone will impress the snot out of you. Anyways, give it a look. Seriously, it works for me. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Stickbow Chronicles, brought to you by Blackwidow Bows, the first episode of 2021. Got my main man, Blake, here. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, man?
It is New Year's Eve, and you are acting as old as I am because we're just sitting here doing intros. And the rest of the world's out reveling in the new year.
Yeah, it's raining here, and got the kiddo at home, one of them, and so we're just going to hang out at the house.
Yeah.
Just take it easy.
Yep, that's good stuff. You got a nice-looking hat there. It's a dang nice hat.
Yeah. Tim and Matt over at the Push were nice enough to send me a hat.
That's a nice
hat. Wear it.
Yeah.
We need some hats.
I know. We got a lot of planned for 2021.
Yeah, there's your teaser.
The hats is the easy part. If all we had was the hats on the docket, we'd cruising.
No, that's yeah. I'm looking forward to 2021. It's the last day of 2020. I went hunting for the last time in 2020 this morning. Saw 0 deer, and I bailed out because it was fixing to start raining, and stalked in on a pretty big pig, 5 yards, dead asleep. Got the old heart thumping a little bit.
You know, if you were cool, you'd have reached down and slapped it right in the pork butt.
Yeah, I'm not cool though.
You need long arms. I would if I had a 7-foot arm.
Before I shot him, I was making sure there was a tree close by that I could shimmy up because he was. I thought he was dead. I sat and watched him for a minute. I videoed him and then watched him for a minute and thought, hell, I'm going to shoot him just to make sure he's dead. And then he kind of twitched his ears and kind of adjusted his head, and I was like, oh. He is most definitely alive. But, yeah, I got the little heart up, and it was pretty cool.
That's good stuff. Well, this week's episode is Jake Strohmeyer and I down central Idaho chasing elk and deer with the old Stickbows. It's more of an entertaining episode because it's kind of long, and we're just, those long nights, it gets dark at like 4. So you're in the tent by 5, and a lot of BS time. It's pretty funny. It's actually really funny. I was dying laughing when I was editing it.
Have a little liquid courage along?
Maybe. Speaking of which, I got this glass here, and there's a lot of floaties in this hippie beer I'm drinking. Like, can you see that? That's
because you drink weird beer.
I guess so. I'm kind of a beer snob. I don't think they're swimming, but there's no guarantee.
Looks like some stuff I've drank on the mountain.
You usually run it through a filter.
No, just Sterapin and Aquatabs.
Oh, sweet.
Maybe use the T-shirt to filter some stuff out.
Hey, speaking of which, I have got some backstrap sitting out at the table out there, and I just wanted to mention Shifty's seasoning. That stuff is the real deal. So they sent me some clear back in, I don't know, June or something, maybe even earlier than that. But anyways, it was good. It's funny because it was in my cabinet, and my brother-in-law from Michigan was visiting, and he's like, he opens the cupboard up, and he's like, "Oh, you guys get Shifties out here?" I'm like, "Actually, they sent it to me." That was ground a little different, it was good, but I just ordered two more jugs of it there. I got the regular one and the spicy one, but it's ground a little different. It was ground a little coarser. That pepper was ground coarser, and it's got coffee in it. That stuff's the real deal, man. Look them up. I mean, no joke. I'm like I just bought 2 of them. I'm not giving them just a shameless plug. Stuff's really good. It's going to be on some backstrap here in about an hour.
Yeah, I've seen Denny use it. I'm going to have to get some. Yeah. So it's kind of like just like an all-purpose seasoning.
You know what? Source. I'm like, this isn't just a plug, but I put it on I put on scrambled eggs almost every morning. I make scrambled eggs. I put it on everything. French fries. That pepper, I'm really digging the grind on that pepper. I really like pepper. But just a touch of coffee in it, it's good stuff. It's the real deal.
I've always been a salt, pepper, and garlic powder guy, and I just discovered garlic pepper, and I'm kind of obsessed with that right now. So I look forward to trying the Shifties.
Yeah, garlic pepper. I'm not sure. I think garlic salt. Yeah, I use garlic salt often. I'm not that I'm a cook.
I've always had garlic salt. I've never seen garlic pepper until recently, and I bought some, and I'm kind of obsessed with it.
How about Lowry's? That's always a go-to.
Oh yeah, that's a staple as well.
Yeah,
anytime the grill fires up, you got to get a little Lowry's out.
I actually have a little tiny little plastic container that I keep some in my pack when I'm with the kid. If you kill a grouse or something and you're cooking them over fire, trout or something, yeah, sprinkle a little Lowry's. I might trade it out for some Shifties now.
Yeah, I'll have to try some. I've never tried using coffee grinds on anything. It's kind of interesting. So that'll be it's in the seasoning. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, I've never. I don't know that I've ever used anything with coffee in it. So that'll be interesting to try it anyway.
I don't know.
It looks good.
I don't know.
It always looks good when Denny's making stuff.
Denny, but like Brian Burkhardt, he's like that guy looks like a chef, like a real chef. He's always good. Fresh halibut and crabs and moose, and I want to be his neighbor.
I've never ate moose.
Oh, really?
And I feel like I'm really missing out from what I've heard from everybody. I've never had it. Never had it.
The flavor when I killed a young bull, 2014. The flavor was phenomenal, but that was the toughest. It was unbelievable. It was so tough, and I don't know. I couldn't hang it that long. I don't know. It was pretty warm. I ended up canning quite a bit of it because it was so tough. I was like, screw it. I'm just going to can it, and it was dynamite. Oh my gosh!
After you canned it,
yes. Well, even when it was tough, the flavor was incredible. It was great flavor, but once I canned it, that was really, really good. Well, excuse me. Once my wife canned it. I'll get called out. The people that really know me will get, dude, the only thing you cook is scrambled. Yeah, no, they'll say the only thing you cook is scrambled eggs. You lying dog. You might use Shifties, but it's on scrambled eggs and maybe toast. That's the other thing you cook is toast.
That's funny. Yeah. So one of my favorite, and it's not healthy at all. This is certainly a Southern thing, I think. But one of my favorite things to cook is just chicken fries, little chicken fries out of backstrap, tenderized. And, whenever I was growing up, we did it with beef a lot. And then as I got older, we started using venison, and it just makes a much better chicken fry than beef does. It just has that deeper, richer flavor to it that you don't get from beef.
What is chicken fry? What is that?
Just like a chicken fried steak.
So you just like batter
it and fry it. Yep. Batter it and fry it in grease. You don't know what a chicken fried steak is, Rob?
Well, yeah, I guess. If you go to a restaurant and like chicken fried steak, I'm a creature of habit. I'm a creature of habit. It's omelets and eggs.
Okay, well, I'm gonna make some while we're at on the all dad hunt. I'll have to bring some stuff to whip something up.
Well, I'll bring the shifties.
There we go. Yeah.
So in this episode, Jake and I had a blast chasing elk. Weather was not conducive to good hunting. The elk were high, but it was fun. It was fun. We met some characters.
It looked pretty warm.
Let's see. Yeah, it was actually. It was really warm. It's been a few weeks now. Lots happened since then. It was cool.
I was being sarcastic because it looked like it was a shit pot load of snow.
Nah, it wasn't. The snow wasn't that deep. And yeah,
if it was over 6 inches, it's deep for me. That's up to my knees.
I was talking to Toby Esick today. Esick. I always say his name wrong. Toby Esick. He called me when I was pulling my stand down. I'm like, yeah. I said, I'm out here in 2 feet of snow pulling a tree stand down. He's like, 2 feet of snow? I'm like, yeah, it's up to my nipples.
At least we can make fun of ourselves.
Oh, hell yeah. Like, yeah. Yeah, I got tree steps. Tree steps so close together.
Yeah, don't mess with me, though, because I'm just as wide as I am tall.
Got a low center of gravity. I'm a good wrestler.
Right. Like a bowling ball.
You sound taller on the podcast.
That's good. That's exactly what I want. It's exactly what I want.
Anyways, what else we got going on?
I don't know. You gonna watch the ball drop tonight? You do that? Well, you're 4 hours behind, so it'll be dropping for you at like what, 8?
What? I don't watch no balls drop, bro.
You even know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
In New York?
Yeah, I don't have TV. I don't do that.
Yeah.
The blood pressure stays lower when you don't have TV.
I bet that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you got anything else? You want to get out of here?
Yeah, let's get out of here because it's a pretty long episode. Stick with it, though. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny stuff. What'd you think of that video I sent you?
That was funny as hell.
I wish there wasn't so much cussing in it because I'd share it, but it's pretty foul-mouthed.
Yeah, it's rated R.
It's just the F-bomb. It's not like it's crude.
Yeah, just foul language.
Yeah, maybe I'll get Aaron to share it on his stuff. But that is actually what was happening at that time. That was an actual, like, we were crawling in the rain, in the snow, and we did just decide, like, this ain't gonna work. So
it was super funny.
And
if you don't mind the cussing, you can just message us and we'll send it to you.
and actually, you can hear Jake. Jake's a pretty stoic dude. You know, he's it's not easy to make laugh. You can hear him dying behind the camera. He was frickin' rolling. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I was too when you sent it to me. It was funny as hell. All right.
Well, with that said, I want to say a big thank you to the sponsors. 2021, looking for a great year. Appreciate these folks that have been with us for a long time. Kifaru International, The Footed Shaft, Selway Archery, and, of course, Blackwidow Bows. Support those that support us. You hear that a lot, but that's the real deal. I got nothing else.
Great companies, all of them.
You bet. Happy New Year.
Let's get out.
Let's do it. Oh, what's going on, man? Hey, just finally getting warm. Took 2 hours to get the tent warmed up, but we're starting to get some steam.
Your tent sucks.
Well, it's the tent you got to sleep in the tent you came with.
Nicely. Well, okay. Your stove sucks.
Yeah, the stove does suck, I guess. Well, I used it last November when I was muzzleloader hunting, and man, yeah, I think it's the wood. I really do. I think the wood was a little wet. I had that dry tamarack when I first showed up, because the first night I got it nice and toasty in here. Like, I had that thing just cherry red.
Before I got here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Before I ninja'd my way in?
Yeah.
So, we're down here in late archery, and gosh, I don't know, what is it, Friday?
Yeah, it's Friday.
So you came down Wednesday. You left pretty decent hour Wednesday. I had to work, and so I didn't leave till 5:30 in the evening.
Yeah, 5:30 Pacific time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were messaging back and forth in reach, and I knew where you were at. And you had a cot set up for me, and I come rolling in all ninja style. You never even knew I was here.
No, I woke up, I don't know, it was like 3 in the morning, and I hear something breathing over there. It's like, well, I'm just going to assume that's Rob.
Dude, I shut my lights in. I came in all blacked out.
Yeah.
I had the red light on. Your tent. I do like your tent zippers much quieter than mine. And came in. I blew my mattress up outside so you didn't hear me hyperventilate. And yeah, it's straight up ninja, bro.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I didn't hear you. It's like, it's a little scary that I just slept through someone coming in and sitting at the bed. It's 5 feet from me.
Better sleep on your back.
Clenched up tight.
Well, that's all you hear is in prison.
No, yeah. I learned a few lessons.
Alrighty. Don't want to know them. So, typically, the creek's frozen pretty good. It gets pretty cold in here generally this time of year, but so at some point it was pretty cold because the creek's pretty frozen. It's got some cool ice formations. I wish I was a better photographer because some of that stuff is really cool. We went we went way up the creek.
Yeah, it's 20-ish miles.
Yeah, the other day, and looking for elks and all the ice bridges and stuff, but it's warmed up.
Yeah, it's such a funny place down here because it's so hot in the summer, and then it's just the sun doesn't shine down in here in the wintertime. Man, you get that ice that just persists forever. Yeah, it's kind of wild. It's nice not having to worry about rattlesnakes right now.
I actually thought about that yesterday.
I stuck my hand on a lot of rock cracks today. No fear. You've never been up where I was at today. That's pretty intense. I can't imagine, because you're right along the creek and it's rock wall either side. It's like, dang, I'll bet there's a few of those slithery buggers. Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's the good thing about this time of year down here. Gets rid of that factor.
So the plan is, or plan usually is, to be able to, be on the road, whether it's on a four-wheeler or in the pickup, and you're glassing from the road and put some stocks on. But the important part there is to see something.
Yeah. We didn't see anything yesterday, right?
Well, you almost got lucky in camp.
I did.
No, so leading up to we didn't see we saw deer in the morning. Those way high. Those deer,
that's right.
Way high.
That's right.
Some pretty nasty stuff, and we thought, well, we can do better than this. But that was our first day, right? Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday morning. Yeah, it seems like we've been here a lot longer.
Yeah, so we covered some ground that, all the normal haunts, and did a lot of glassing. And, man, it snowed like a bugger in the morning. Really putting her down. And then it kind of cleared off, and
The afternoon we split up. I went and checked a couple of drainages, and I got into some really cool country. Thought I'd be back there today. Probably be back there sometime before we leave. It gets you up high enough to just be able to pull a short bit of ridge and get you up in some high country.
Yeah, if that's your thing.
Well,
that's
where the elk are.
I know. So why not start from the bottom and go all the way up over the top and get to the elk right at the bottom again?
We're not all stupid. Republicans almost win. That's a good one. So we split up yesterday, to cover some more ground, and in the afternoon you went to scout something out, and I went to scout something out, and I come back to camp, and it's dark. It's just got dark, probably 20 minutes after dark, and Jake's standing out front of the tent grinning. I almost shot a doe right in camp.
Yeah, I got back to camp. I don't know. I was back probably a half hour before Rob showed up, and it was still just a little bit of daylight, and I was got the stove started in the tent, and I was in my truck messing with my phone or doing something, and I look up on the ridge, and I don't know, 300 yards away, there's 3 mule deer does coming down toward camp, and I kind of think about it, and I'm like, there's not that much daylight left, and like they're gonna go down where I thought was in this brush patch, and it's like it's low probability. I'm just gonna let them go, and I'm messing around trying to get the stove going, back and forth. My truck I got radio going in the truck, I got lights on, door dinger going off, and I look, and there's one, I don't know, 100 yards from the tent, and I'm like, man, if that thing keeps moving the way that's going, I could see this other little opening through the brush, and I'm like, well, I'll just grab my bow and walk over there. So yeah, I'm slamming doors on the truck and everything else, and the thing's just standing up there, and
campground deer.
And I grab the bow, make a little sneak up. I walked straight away from it and got to where it couldn't see me anymore, and then I walked up this little notch in the brush, and I'm walking up there, and I'm like, this is, like, I had no idea how far it was going to be or anything else. I get right to the bottom of it. I'm like, it's 25 yards to the skyline. If that thing walks by there, man, it's like I could shoot her. And I just got set up, and then I see big old mule deer ears and nose poking over. She busted me, but she covered that. She probably had to go 75 yards, and she covered that in that short period of time it took me to get over there. But it was pretty funny. It's like, man, I really thought it was going to happen for a second.
Oh yeah, you'd have been tickled to have I'd be gutting a deer right there in camp as I pulled in.
Bobby, got my deer.
I got my deer. Yeah, another warm night. It's just right at freezing or something. It's kind of nasty. Snow's kind of sticky. So you had a great plan this morning. Again, we split up. I think your mic is covered by your shirt.
It is.
So yeah, you had a trail picked out that we'd never been on before, and we went down. We took a quick trip down in a spot we usually see some, or used to see some elk. I think the deal is, so yesterday we covered enough ground, and we're like, okay, the elk are not down, the elk are high. We were convinced that they're in the timber, and the timber is a long freaking ways out of the bottom. So you had a trail that you were going to take and kind of explore some new country, and you took off, and I took the wheeler and went up a road that's pretty steep, and it was probably 8-10 inches of snow on it, and kind of working that wheeler to get up in there. I had a spot that I wanted to get to, and got off the wheeler, and lo and behold, there's elk across the canyon, but they were on to me, and because of the machine. So I let them go, and I figured, well, worst case scenario, I'll give them the time to settle in, and I can make a trek around the hill and kind of figure out where they're bedded. But so I continued on just hiking up the road and went about a half mile, got some tracks, and immediately got into elk. Kind of paralleled them, and Didn't work out. I thought that, so it didn't work out. You know, that was like an hour and a half messing with them, and I figured I could go above them, seeing how the wind was. I could get above them now and come over the top and maybe spot them bedded. So that was my plan, to get up there. It's a beautiful day. Sun came out. It was fantastic. But dang, these hillsides are slick with the snow. So I finally found a little finger ridge. I figured I'd get up without dying, and get up in there, and never could find them. Finally, I ended up in the back end of this thing and sitting under a tree, eating my lunch. Spot a cow about 500. Well, I ranged it. It was right at 500. So I reached for my binos or camera or something, and yeah, spotted me. So, oh, you're on bright light. Yeah, so she straight up spotted me at 500 yards, just locked on, 2 cows staring at me. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Give a guy a break. So now I'm 4 hours into it. Now I'm just gonna bail. And you had messaged me, and that trail you were going up, you were gonna come out someplace and wanted me to pick you up. And I was like, that's a monster hike, dude.
Well, I didn't know what I was going to do this morning. We'd never been up this trail, and I mean, you can look at the topo map all day, but it's hard to. This country is so it's very complex country, and so you don't really know what you're getting into. But I got up there about the first 1,500 feet or so, and it was really cool. And I do a little messing around on my map.
1,500 feet of elevation.
1,500 feet elevation. Yeah, and a couple miles up there, and I wasn't really seeing anything, but I thought, well, there's no reason for me to go. If I go back down the way I came, I'm definitely not going to see anything, because there was no, you got all this fresh snow, and so if stuff is around. You could glass tracks. I mean, I was looking at a set of coyote tracks 300 yards away across the hillside, and I mean, you could pick out tracks, and it's like, there's nothing out here. And so I was like, I'll go up over the top, and I pulled out, I used Gaia, and it was like 1.8 miles to the very top, but where the trail bails off and goes back down, and then it was another 9/10 of a mile down to this hot springs, which there's a road that comes up from camp that I knew Rob could pick me up. And so I was like, I'll just do that. It's like, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, and I could see the top from where I was at. It looks like this really nice ridge. 6 hours later, I'm about ready to shoot myself.
So I get the text, and he's like, hey, will you pick me up, at such and such a place? And I'm like, holy shit. All right, man. So I text you back, like, yep, got it, roger that. And I was when you text me, I was just flat in elk. I was in elk the whole morning, whole day. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll better saunter off this thing and start down. And once I got out of view of those cows, I was taking some pictures. It's just spectacular. Sun shining, miles and miles of just crazy mountains. And as I'm talking as I'm videoing, softly. And as I'm panning the camera to the opposing hillside, I see an elk walking across. I'm like, holy, it's on the video. I'm like, holy sh, it's a bull. Well, I didn't know it was a bull at the time. And so I shot her down, threw the glass up. Sure enough, it's a spike. Big, tall spike. Tall spikes. And so I got my stuff squared away and just kind of scurried out. And like Jake and I were talking, there's these crazy, weird, they're not roads, but they're just dozer lines everywhere up there. So I grabbed one of those dozer lines and I covered some country. And now I get across from him. I'm 300 yards across from him. Like, he's a little bit lower in elevation from me. So he's side hilling up the canyon. So I give a couple of chirps with my mouth, just like a grunt, and broke some sticks. And his head swings around, and he thinks about it, and then just bails. Like 3 big jumps. He's coming down the hill. He's coming at me. I'm like, holy smokes. So I drop my pack. I watch him. Now he's going to come up a draw, It's really tight. I mean, it's probably 70 yards across this draw. So I drop my pack and I'm thinking, you got to kind of thinking quick here because he's coming. So I'm assuming he's going to come up the little finger across from me. So I left my pack there and I boogie back about 60, 80 yards maybe. And I get right in the gut of this draw. Because if he comes up, there's so much deadfall right there, he's going to be funneled off to my right. So I set up and I wait about 2 minutes, and pretty soon I see his head coming through the trees. I'm like, man, he's on a rope, and he's coming up. So I get my feet right on the other side of the tree. I got my shooting lanes, and now when I see his head and his neck and his chest, I later ranged it. It's 42 yards. He comes up to the log I figured he would, and I know he's got to go right. He goes right, and as he steps broadside, his nose goes in the air. I got wind quartering hard to me. It's perfect. His nose goes in the air. I'm like, what the heck? And then he whirls and faces, kind of faces me, and his head's still in the air, and I realize he's smelling my pack. Oh, freaking. So he cut the wind of my pack. I look over there, I'm 80 yards away, there's my pack. I'm sure that's what he's smelling. He didn't blow out of there, but he didn't like it and kind of trotted off. And so I ranged it 42 yards. That's mouth calling a spike in. That's pretty good gig.
Yeah, it is good. And I didn't see. So I ended up hiking up. Ended up being 3,100 vertical feet up there, and there was a trail for a bunch of it, but I lost because of the snow on the ground. It was hard to follow the trail, and so I got off the trail a couple times, and I know why the trail was below me now is because the top of the ridge, which, a lot of times you think the top of the ridge is going to be nice. It was just rock outcrop after rock outcrop that I was crawling through, and kind of ended up burning a lot of energy getting into that. And then I finally got up to where it got nice, and I found the trail again, but I still hadn't seen anything. I ended up jumping. Well, it was kind of funny because I had seen the track. There was a fresh mule deer track that went off the super steep side. So you've got, both sides are steep, but one side is
death.
It is truly death, with the snow on the ground. I wouldn't take a step over the side of it. And there's this deer track that goes up to the top of the ridge. It takes off underneath this outcrop, and it's like a 45-degree slope. And I'm like, why would that?
So is it running?
No, I hadn't jumped it. It had just gone up, and it knew. And I didn't know what the country was, but it knew exactly what it was doing. Because what it was doing is it got out there, and it's probably no big deal if you got hooves and you're a deer. You go along that hillside, and it just cut off because there was a knob, and it cut off, and it just came out, and she came out in the saddle, and so I finally get up to where the aspect changes around, and I can see all the way back down toward our camp, and see tons of country. And that's actually where I started. That's where I was really hoping that I'd start seeing elk. There's big, beautiful timbered finger ridges, just perfect looking late season elk country. And actually, that's the first time I stopped and actually ate something and drank some water. I sat there for 10 or 15 minutes glassing. I get up, I walk 50 yards, and here comes this deer just smoking up out of the draw. How in the hell away from? Oh, it totally saw me, because at this point I'd glassed everything I could see, and so I'm like, okay, it's time to get up and walk. There's nothing there, right? And it's it's all burnt. Well, come to find out, it was that deer. I was not that far behind that deer when I crossed its track, and it had come out, gone through the saddle, and I think the whole time I was sitting there eating, it was on the same face that I was, and there was a big deep gully down below. Yeah. And so I think she was just down there and happened to pop up when I'm in the wide open and sees me, and of course smokes up out of there. But then I cut her track, and I saw exactly what she did. She just cut off that outcrop and went to the next saddle, just never had to gain any elevation, and popped out right there. And so that was the first living thing. I saw a bunch of sheep right off the bat, but
how close did you get to sheep?
I got 60 yards to those sheep. I saw them. They were 300 yards up the hill from me when I first saw them, and they were just feeding out across this big wide open, and there's no cover at all in that piece. Like, you just have to, you're kind of in the bottom of the draw where the trail's at. And they had some trees, and so I just went real slow because I didn't want to spook them out, because I knew I had seen just the edge of another cool draw on the other side that I thought could have elk in it. And so I didn't want to spook them, and I was in no big hurry, because at that point I hadn't even decided I was going all the way over the top. I was just really taking my time and enjoying it. So I just took it real slow, tried to keep, some trees between me so they could never really see me all that well. They knew I was there, but they couldn't really tell what I was, I didn't think. And then they got behind some trees, and I was able to make some pretty good time. And I pop out, and I'm like, man, they're still right there. I'm like, I don't really have any choice. I need to keep going. It's like, I hate to blow them out of here, but I'll just, it's super steep at that point, so I couldn't go that fast anyway. And so I just started side hilling, kind of, or switchbacking, kind of back and forth, and not really like looking at them, and trying to keep a couple trees that were up on the hillside kind of partly between them and I. And they'd kind of look at me for a while, and they'd move off a little bit, and then they'd stop, and they'd all go back to feeding. And I couldn't believe it. Eventually, by keeping those trees between us, I ended up getting 60 yards from them, and then they finally got a little more nervous and fed off. But so, yeah, that was walking through the wide open sagebrush up toward them.
They knew you were harmless.
Yeah, right. It's like, that dude's gonna be 5 feet from me if he's gonna do anything to me.
Well,
It's gonna be within an arrow length.
I saw a pretty nice ram. He was full curl. I didn't look at him that long. I had some other stuff going on, and but what struck me, I didn't tell you this, what struck me was the frickin' belly on that thing. He was straight out, he had a dad bod. Dude, the dude was a belly dragger.
Belly dragger.
Oh, man. That's what I looked at the longest. I'm like, what the hell's up with that?
On a sheep, that's just a nutsack, though.
No, this was, man, if he got COVID, he'd die.
He was at risk, huh?
Oh, he was a high risk. Friggin' heart disease, the whole 9 yards.
Huh?
Yeah, it was like...
Healthy filler.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's good ram. The minute I saw him, I don't know, he's probably 300 yards. The minute I saw him, you can tell just the mass. You could tell he was a full curl. I put the binos on him. I'm like, oh, yeah. What the hell? What's underneath them? Freaking damn.
They're such a goofy shaped critter, though. Like, it's almost like, because they're kind of color-wise, they look like mule deer, but you can, from a long ways away, like once you're used to seeing them, you can tell it's a sheep just because
they're so compact.
Yeah.
They're compact.
The body shape is odd.
Yeah. So, I messaged Jake, and I was like, Roger that, man. And I didn't want to message a bunch, so I bailed. I ran into another dozen or so elk, and that was a fiasco. And you doing that? Would you say 3,100 feet?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I gotta tell you, that sugar, not sugary, but very powdery snow. Man, you're losing a half a step for every step you take. That's freaking brutal, man.
Oh, man, it's slick. And then, it wasn't too bad, like, going up on that trail. I didn't slip and slide too much. The hard part was when I was off trail, like, you can't tell what you're stepping on. And, like, going up through those rock outcrops, all of a sudden you're stepping on slick rock. And, yeah, you're going downhill in a hurry.
Gravity.
At that point in time. So, but then when I finally got up high enough, though, when I got up to about 6,000 feet, and I was around on the north side, the snow it got deep because it was like the exact same amount of snow all the way until I got around, and that's when I started running into deer. There was deer tracks everywhere. Ended up seeing. Oh, what did I see on that side? I saw eight different deer in two groups on that side, and all the deer that I ran into, because I ran into another couple groups on the way down the hill, they're all on north facing slopes, and they're all kind of around one big knob. But it's just weird how they'll hang out. Like, why are they hanging out in the coldest, darkest, deepest snow spot?
Well, it hasn't been cold though. They got that's I was
but
thinking.
No sun ever.
Yeah, but I was thinking that today. Like, I couldn't believe those elk weren't bedded on those benches I got to. But at the same time, it's it's probably 40 today, right?
Yeah.
In the sun.
Ballpark, yeah.
Yeah. And, they got those heavy winter coats on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I've seen that before. It just always surprises me. It's just like you see what the stuff that looks like really good to me, and maybe that's kind of maybe thinking more toward the spring when I see them like on those south-facing nice ridges, because I think there's not as much, obviously not as much snow, but yeah, just running in that north side. But yeah, the snow on that side was about mid-calf deep. And it had like a older crust
below it.
It.
Yeah,
below
I was in
it
that
wasn't
today.
real nice walking.
No, I was.
I was about out of gas by the time I got up there. I only took a quart of water with me today, which I knew was a mistake.
Yeah, I ran out of water. When I finally spotted you, so before I get into that, I bail. I didn't want to message you until I got to camp. So I get to camp, and I had a few things to do. I had to fuel up the machine. I had to charge batteries. I was kind of hustling because, right away I messaged you. I'm like, hey, I'm at camp. When do you want picked up? Just about 3 or 4 miles, and nothing, no response. So my inReach seemed to have screwed up a little bit.
Immediate response. But.
Well, my inReach screwed up a little bit, and so I actually shut it off and turned it back on, and then it sent 2 messages. And so now I waited, and I got everything done. It took me about a half hour, and I got no response. And it's nasty. I mean, I'm telling you, it's sheep country. I mean, it's rugged, nasty stuff. And Jake is more than capable. But he did mention that something earlier that kind of stuck in my head. I'm thinking he did say something about his battery, so maybe his battery died. So now I'm thinking, crap, man. I don't want to be looking, up there in the dark. So I throw a bunch of stuff on my machine, and I took off and headed out over there. And, I climb up there, and I get off the machine. I get on this highest peak, and I can see the trail over there across, and I'm just looking at these rock cliffs. I'm like, holy crap! His battery died on his phone. Maybe he missed a trail and got freaking cliffed out or something. And I was there for about a half hour. And then I look down in the bottom, and I can see this figure. And I'm like, oh, shit, that might be him. And then I can see you, take 2 steps and stop. And you rest, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's him. Because there was another rig up there, because I thought, well, maybe it's the other guys. And then I can see he takes 2 steps and rests.
I wasn't resting. I fell on my ass.
I'm like, oh, whatever that figure is, he's smoked. That's got to be him. Come to find out, my inReach is just should be called just out of reach, because you got all my messages and was messaging me back. I never got them.
Yeah, so I finally got up to the top, and and I was done climbing, and I was excited to start going down. I knew it wasn't going to be great going down, but the trail, when I was on the trail going up, it was like a super well located trail, and it had, it's got switchbacks in it, so the grade's not that bad. And it's like, oh man, I ought to make good time going down. As soon as I started down the other side, it was like a whole different trail. It was super steep.
The guys built it going this way, right? So they got to the top and they were smoked. They're like, just go down, just freaking go down.
Just go straight down the hill. And it was, everywhere around here has been burnt, but off that first bowl that I dropped into, it had burnt hotter in there, and so there was a bunch of trees that had come across the trail. And and I don't know, I'd probably only made it 500 yards down there, and I should have known. I learned a lesson. It's like I should have been more careful, because there was a down tree, and I kind of was getting up and figuring out how to cross over the down tree, and stepped on a stick that was just pointing straight down the hill and just slammed into the ground. Because there's just enough snow that small sticks and stuff, you can't see it. You can't see the stuff under there, and the snow on that face had gone, because it was cold and powdery on the other side, so it was a little better traction. But over on that side, it got warm enough and sun affected, and it was super slick, and it was caking up on the bottom of my boots, and it was a miserable trip down. And then at this point, and I jump another group of deer that saw me from 400 yards away.
They don't know
right as soon as I got into the open, and I'd actually glassed that, not super hard, because honestly I'm not really paying that much attention for deer, and so I kind of got my elk eye on, and elk are just so much easier to see in this country. But I was annoyed. I'm like, seriously? Not that I could have ever even if I'd have seen those deer, there was no way to get to them without them seeing me, because I had nothing but open country to cross to get to them. But anyway, so I watched them take off, and then actually I ended up getting within about, I don't know, I probably got within 80 yards of those deer, they'd blown out, and I thought they were long gone, and I come over the next little rise, and they're still standing right there. See them bouncing down off through the trees.
They all got you figured out.
Yeah.
They know you're no threat.
And so I'm kind of fighting and I get to the super steep, where those deer, where I jumped in the second time, the trail at that point, it literally turned straight down the hill, and I'm it was so steep that I'm not even sure if this is the trail, because I'm looking for cut logs, and I'd find a cut log every now and then, but there was other trees all across it, and steeper than all get out. And, you have to, having to walk sideways down the hill. There's no way I can turn my feet down the hill. I just start skiing down the hill.
In the trail, you're walking sideways?
Oh, yeah, I'd walk sideways. 50% of that trail I walk sideways going down. And it's steep. The last part is actually the best part of it. And then, so I get down there, and at this point, I'm whooped. But I know Rob is coming, because it's it's a long walk from there to camp.
Oh yeah.
And, at least I knew he was coming, so I knew that I wouldn't have to hike the other 3.5-4 miles down into camp, which originally I was like, well, it'll be no big deal if I have to do that, because I wouldn't have to walk that far, because I could have cut straight down the hill.
That would have sucked though, because it's the same thing.
Yeah, it still would have sucked,
slick.
but you could cut off a lot of mileage on those switchbacks. I was scouting it from up above, and I'm like, if I get to that spot, I can cut down that one, and then I can cut the next one. But anyway. But so I get down and I hit the first full-on wide-on opening that the trail comes into, and sure enough I look down and there's an animal down below me, and I thought it was a mule deer at probably 200 yards down the hill. It's got its head down feeding, and I put the glasses on it, and it's there's no way I can get to that thing. But then I look at it and I'm like, that's a calf elk for sure. Calf elk. And the hill kind of rolled over, and it had its head down the entire time. It didn't see me, and it was the only elk I could see. And so I scooted over a little bit to where I couldn't see that one anymore, so I knew it couldn't see me. And then I glassed all over, and I couldn't find another elk. And I'm like, man, that might be a calf that got split off from something, and that might be some easy pickings. And so I dropped off the side of the sort of a little ridge, out of sight, scooted down 150 yards, and there was a big ponderosa pine, which I didn't know really how far it was to that elk. But I'm like, well, let's see if I can get to there, see if I can find it. I got down to the tree, didn't see anything, and I couldn't see because of the way the hill rolled off. And I'm like, man, if that's just one calf, man, I was like, I need to cow call at that thing and do the, assembly mew thing at it. I was like, maybe it'll come, maybe it'll step up, because it only probably had to come from where I thought it was. If it came 50 yards to me, it was going to be within range the way the hill rolled over. And so I called, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. Nothing happened. I don't know, just spent 10 minutes behind the tree. And I'm like, well, man, maybe that thing blew out. Because I couldn't be super quiet going down that hillside. So, no. No, I couldn't be super quiet. So it's like maybe it heard me, and at one point I saw some movement down off to my left, which I saw snow falling out of a tree, but I'm like, man, I don't really see the snow falling out of the trees, and so I thought maybe it was that elk running off, and it knocked a branch and knocked some snow out. But I was like, well, there's another tree down there. It's like, I'm gonna try to get down to that, and I start moving down, and then suddenly I can see a couple elk that don't see me. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna keep going. And then it was kind of interesting because I thought I was completely out of sight of those elk, and they must have heard me because I had the wind was perfect. It was almost in my face, quartering off to my left. It was like the wind was absolutely perfect, and so I was like, no, it didn't wind me, but they didn't really do anything. And so I'm like, well, I'm gonna keep going. I had one more tree, and at this point I didn't know how many elk there were. There ended up being 6. And I got closer to that tree, and it's like 2 of them had kind of scampered off, but I could still see an elk butt sticking out on the right of the other tree. And I'm like, man, I'm going to get to that tree. That thing might actually be in range. And so I go down the hill. My pack is way the hell back up the hill at this point.
You did?
Oh,
that sucks.
Well, because I had, because that first piece of the stock, because I had to, because I was on my, like, kind of on my hip, kind of sliding down the hill to stay low enough to stay out of sight. And anyway, so I pop out. I get down to that tree. I can still see the elk butt sticking out, but I don't really have any depth perception. Get an arrow knocked, swing around that tree. The thing's like 80 yards down the hill. I'm like, oh, crap. But the funniest thing, it's not funny, an interesting thing was the noises they were making. So the
back and forth to each other.
Well, no, like at me, because they knew something was up, but they couldn't really tell because they never got a clean look at me.
Well,
they couldn't.
You're not easy to hide, bro.
Me.
Let's be honest. You're coming down that hill. It's like Snuffleupagus.
It was a 40-inch tree, man.
So
I was only sticking out 10 inches on either side. It was just my shoulders.
Freaking Snuffleupagus coming down the hill.
But yeah, so the first bark that it barked at me sounded more like a bull doing that, kind of thing at me, and it's like, that's different, and it was really it was raspy. It was just like it wasn't the normal like alarm bark.
Chris Roll.
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he'll tell me what it was.
You know what he's gonna say? Snuffleupagus. That's Snuffleupagus for elk talk.
The Snuffleupagus call. And so it does that, and then it did that a couple times. And at this point, I didn't want to blow them out because it's like they weren't spooked, like truly spooked. I mean, I wasn't going to get any closer to them at that point in time, but they weren't truly spooked. I'm like, well, if I can not bug them too much, maybe they'll stay over here on this side of the hill, because they, at this point I'd climbed 3,100 feet and dropped 1,000. They were, I mean, if it would have been a wonderful place to have killed an elk. I mean, it was like you couldn't do much better than that in this country, because it wasn't that far from where you could get a truck to.
In camp you could.
Yeah, that'd be good. Camp would be better. But then, so I'm trying to still stay hidden because I can still see him down there, and I'm trying to stay as hidden as I can to walk all the way back up the hill and go get my pack. And I hear a dog. I swear it was a dog bark, and there's 2 trucks that are parked down where Rob ended up later. I thought, man, and those guys were camped by us, so it's like, maybe those guys are actually chucker hunting. Like, it's like, that was a dog. And I didn't think much of it, and then went up and got my pack. I was coming back down, heard the other bark a couple times. I could still see him down there. And then I hear that dog bark again. It's like, that is the elk. It sounded exactly like a lab barking.
Really?
Yeah, it was I've never heard a bark that sounded that much like a dog.
And you've heard some elk.
Yeah, I mean, a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard way more of them bark at me than
you want to admit.
Yeah, but anyway, at that point, well, yeah, so, and then I get my pack, get all my stuff together. I can see where the elk are. They're down the hill and to my left, and the trail goes to the right, down the hill. I hear them bark a few more times, but at that point I'm about level with them. I'm like, good, I got past them, and there was no way they were going to win me. And I get down and I break into the next opening. I see some dude standing on a knob over there, and I'm like, who in the hell is that? At the same time, I see all 6 of the elk are blowing up the hill. They'd crossed the draw below me and were blowing up toward the road, and they get on the road, and 5 of them are running right down toward the dude on the knob.
I see these elk running up the road. I'm like, oh, damn. This is interesting.
And I'm like, man. And I see the guy like moving back toward the trucks that were up there, and I at that point I just assumed it was one of the guys.
I was trying to get out of the view of him.
So I see the guy running down there, and I'm like, oh man, maybe like that'd be kind of ironic if the guy goes and shoots one right from the back of his truck. But then I see him turning and walking back up the hill, and I'm like, what is going on? And then after a while, I finally figured out. I put the glasses on him, and it's
here's your Uber driver.
It's this guy with a goofy hat on and.
Goofy. You were
8 layers of clothes on.
Dude, Dude, when I knew it was you when you hit the road.
It's like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man standing on that knob.
When you hit the road and and bent over on your walking stick, I was like, oh yeah, it's Jake. He smoked. And then to be honest, I've got to keep it clean. I thought, I'll just make him walk up here.
Oh yeah, once I figured out it was you, I was like, why in the is he not driving down here? It's like there's tracks all over the road, and I'm like, well, maybe there's a road closed sign or something, because there's no way he's going to make me, because it was, a half a mile uphill.
I wanted you
in the snow.
I wanted you to earn your freaking winner. I just figured.
I was doing the work, man.
Well, yeah. You know what I thought?
Doing the work.
Man, he's about to cross the finish line. The finish line is up here.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down.
Finally, I hear a four-wheeler start, and he comes down. I'm like, it's good, because I was going to punch him right in the frickin' nose if I got up there and there wasn't a road closed sign. I told myself on this hunt I wasn't going to get irritated with you. It's like, it's way harder than it ought to be. Yeah, and then he finally shows up on his four-wheeler, and he doesn't even have his bow. And I'm like, that's why he wasn't
on a rescue mission.
That's why he wasn't making the move toward the
zone. You didn't text me, you didn't message me. I thought, he's either his inReach is dead or he's dead.
Bobby No Bow.
Yeah. Yeah, this morning, we forgot to mention, we after we left camp, we go down the road, and there's wolf tracks in the road.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's it's not that it's surprising, there's wolves around, but when we went down and we took a quick trip down to glass some spots, there was a lone ewe sheep, and it was so weird that she was by her, and we watched her walk across the hillside, so you had to wonder if they didn't, maybe, a band didn't get busted up.
Well, it's just weird where those wolves came through, man. I mean, they walked.
No, I think I've seen them there before.
Really?
Yeah, no joke.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a weird place for them to come through, it would seem like, but it is probably a travel corridor. Do it in the middle of the night and get away with it.
Well, it's not like there's a lot of people around. So, yeah.
Just Ice Hut Harry and the Tarp Twins.
I think those guys are getting after it, though.
The Tarp Twins?
Yeah, I think they're getting after it. They came across pretty late last night. Headlamps. I think they're putting the work in.
Doing the work.
Yes, everybody else bailed after 2 days. When you realize the game is not in the bottom, it is a long ways from the bottom to the top. When you realize the elk are up there, you're like, maybe we'll just buy a beef.
Maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, maybe we'll just buy a beef.
Yeah, we had quite the... So I pulled in here on Wednesday, and, I wasn't surprised that there was people on this campsite. It's kind of a campground, and there's not that many places to camp. But I pull in, and first thing I see is it's like this old crappy tent trailer with a blue tarp stretched over the top of it.
You got to know that's a local, though. When you see something like that, it's when you see the big fifth wheels, you're like,
right.
Oh, yeah, where are you from?
But you just expect this time of year you're going to see either like a decent trailer or a wall tent. I mean, like, what else do
you see less wall tents, though? You don't see a lot of wall tents.
I know, and people are missing out, man.
I know it.
There's nothing better. It's so much better than a trailer.
No joke. It's so well, except for your sucky ass stove here. Generally,
you can't start a fire.
Generally, you got wood heat, which is way better than propane.
Yep.
You don't got to drag that friggin' trailer.
Yeah, and it's roomy, and it's way better. But anyway, and then so I see the crappy old tent trailer, and then there's a truck and a like a flatbed like UTV trailer. See this blue thing on the other side of it? It's a giant ice fishing hut. I don't think I've ever seen one that big. It was huge.
No, that's like a six manner.
And yeah, and so I go through, and I can tell because it's got windows on it, and they're kind of fogged up. And I was like, well, maybe there's somebody in there. So there's one good campsite.
You should have went and knocked and said, "You catch anything?"
That would have been great.
You got a fish finder?
But I pull in here. I text Rob on the inReach. It's like, hey, there's people camped here. Neither one of us really like camping by people. Probably me less so than Rob, but I just hate being by other people. And I'm like, hey, there's a couple camps in here. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, go for it. And I'm like, well, it's like, and I don't know this piece of the country all that well. And so I drove out just real quick, went up the road just, I don't know, half a mile and just looked around to see if there was something else, and there wasn't. So I came back in and parked the truck, and I look out and I see the guy pop out of the ice fishing shack. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to be neighborly. I'm going to go, I mean, we're 100 yards away from him, but I'm like, I'm going to go talk to him and just, say, hey, you mind if we camp here? And I get within about, I don't know, 50 yards of him, and he hollers something at me. And I'm crunching through the snow. So I stop and I was like, what's that? It's like, you game warden?
You should have said, yeah, you got a fishing license?
Totally should have. And I'm like, no, I'm driving a Toyota pickup. I mean, like, I don't know where you're from, but like, yeah.
You should have said, yeah, let me see your license.
As soon as I said no, he's like, okay, and I walk over there. He's like, hey, you mind if we camp here? He's like, no, more the merrier. And then he just starts spilling his guts about like what he's seen and what he hasn't seen, and asked me about crossing the creek because he had seen a couple elk over there, I guess. And it's like, you guys gonna cross the creek? And it's like, well, we have waders to get across there. And it's like, yeah, well, I was going to ride him a four-wheeler across, and I decided that wasn't a good idea. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be a horrible idea, buddy.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just typical. It's like we never camp next to somebody normal.
That's
like we could write at this point we could write a book about.
You know
the
what?
people
You
that we
are
camp
absolutely
by.
right.
Yeah, never like a normal dude.
Man, you are absolutely right. I
And
never
then
thought about that.
I run into the guy as I'm leaving.
Don't say names, but you can just say how far he drove.
Right.
It was epic.
So I run into this guy, and we had seen him when we were driving up the road earlier in the day. He had got behind us, and we let him by, and he passed us. And he's super. He was a super nice guy. A little odd.
You just wanted a
super
friend.
nice guy.
Yeah.
And so he stopped to talk to us, asked if we're seeing anything, and I'm like, no, nothing yet. And he bombs on by us. And right before dark, I'm coming back. I'm getting to my truck and getting ready to turn around, and he comes by again, and he tells me where he drove to, and he must have drove 6 hours.
6 hours.
And stopped in a town, bought a pair of waders so we could cross the creek because he really wanted to get over there. And I get back to camp about 10 minutes later, and I see him standing on the other side of the creek. It's like, man, he must have been testing.
Happy.
He must have been testing out those waders. Well, come to find out, you can walk right across the ice out here. So he drove this giant loop, bought a pair of waders, and yeah, he never. And I wonder if he even went across the creek this morning. He's gone now.
But the loop he drove. I mean, you're not driving down the road.
No,
you're driving up through the mountains, overpasses, roads that
unplowed roads
are not maintained. I can't believe he did that. I can't believe how fast he did it.
Yeah, I mean, he must have just pedaled to the metal nonstop to make it around that, because it's a long ass ways. Like I've driven all of that many times. It is a long ways. And it's not.
You slide off the road, you're freaking game over for a long time.
Yeah, and the backside of that pass is no joke. I mean, it's got some big steep stuff, and you get over into the wide open country.
Can you imagine if he just went and told when he bought them? If he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go wade," like you're gonna wade where? You know how far you are from that creek?
It's funny though. He's hollering at me when I get back. It's like, did you guys go across the creek today? I'm like, no. And he's standing in the middle of the creek at this point on top of the ice. He's like, there's tracks out here. And I was like, well, maybe it's the Tarp twins over there.
Maybe it's somebody else.
That went over there. He's like, yeah, somebody else went up here. I'm like, that wasn't me. And he's like dancing around out on the ice. And the guy's not a little guy.
No,
I mean, he's probably pushing 300 pounds.
No.
And Yeah, he's like, oh, you can just walk right across this. And I'm like, dude, if you fall in, I am not coming after you, man. It's be like riding freaking Shamu through the ice dams.
That's not nice. That's awesome. That's not nice, though. You're so right, though. We got more stories about people we run
do,
into.
Man.
It's maybe because maybe you're just harsh on people.
No, because what always happens is you go make friends with them, and then 2 days later you are just incensed about what assholes they are. Just absolutely beside yourself. And yeah, I told you that right off the beginning. Like these aren't people we want to be buddies with. Got to give you credit for trying, but like, yeah.
I go into it like, they just want to be friends.
Like, I think I'm a fairly quick judge of whether or not I won't say characters, whether or not they're people that I want to be associated with. And
I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but then when you find them camped in an elk wallow, 7 miles from the trailhead.
Oh, Manny. Manny. Yeah, no, we could put a book together.
We should actually think about that. Be kind of like Pat McManus.
Yeah, it all started with Trail Johnny, and that's the king of them. I was actually thinking about him today, about people that just go to the same place over and over again, and how he was still carrying a picture of that elk he killed 17 years ago in his wallet.
Yeah, you gotta kind of cut him a little slack.
See, you're already. Well,
he's like the guy that dated the prom queen but never got married, right? He's like he was living his glory days
over and over again. It's like Uncle Rico.
Uncle Rico. What the hell is Uncle Rico?
It's Napoleon Dynamite, man.
Oh shit! I never watched that movie. I never will.
Well, you have to watch that movie.
Nah.
Oh. You'll know what Uncle Rico's all about. Oh.
Shamu. You're an ass. Poor guy. Just want to have a friend.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it's a shame. You dig around. I mean, I don't know how to say it. You can't take landscape pictures. I mean, you just can't post landscape pictures. But holy smokes, this place is. I took a few pictures today because it's pretty nondescript, but it's just amazing. And I'm so thankful that, speaking personally, I have the physical ability to get where I'm going and have a blast doing this. I mean, it's just awesome. It's just awesome country.
You're always going to have the physical ability to get where you're going. It's just, it depends on your goal.
Yeah, good point.
Uh-huh.
Way to scale that back. Well, I got to the bathroom. Thank God.
Rode my wheeler up the road today.
But, well, I'll tell you what, man, that wheeler worked today to get up there. Holy crap.
Really?
Well, there's no base in that snow.
Yeah.
So it's freaking spinning the whole way, and I stopped like 4 times and just let it idle, cool the machine off, and yeah.
You're WFO on the way down that hill, man.
I was riding double with my girl. And my date Friday night.
It was not an enjoyable experience. I'm not a good passenger to start with, but it was super uncomfortable. I'm stiffer than all get out from what I just did. I'm like, every time you gas it, coming out of the corner of my
Oh yeah, it's freaking rallying, bro. Freaking rallying.
I'm rallying.
And you had that jacket zipped up over your binos. You look like you had a bun in the oven.
Yeah.
And my pregnant chick on the back.
Your freaking ear flaps on your Mad Bomber had her slapping me in the face all the way down there.
Well, you could have walked.
I could have walked. Yep. Yeah, thanks for making me walk that half.
Oh, dude, I did. I'm like, man, I hate to just crush his dreams. He's almost gonna make it.
Almost here.
Come on, little fella.
I still see you standing up on that knob. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, there's got to be something I don't understand about this situation.
Well, I wanted to make sure it was you. I didn't want to hose those guys, if they're hunting there. I already saw those elk. And those elk were looking down the hill. So, there's somebody down there. And I didn't want to, jump on the wheeler and kind of ruin somebody's hunt.
The elk blasting out of the drainage in front of you probably should have been an indication that the hunt was over.
Hey, I tell you what, if I was freaking coming up there and somebody drove down on a wheeler, I'd be freaking pissed. So try to treat people like I want to be treated.
You didn't know it was me?
No.
You didn't even have your binos, did you?
No, I didn't. I don't know why I didn't bring my binos. I went up I stripped down, man. I know the size of you and my machine.
If you're going,
my machine had already worked hard today.
If you're going on a rescue mission, take your binos.
Well, that might have been a mistake.
Pro tip.
Yeah. I didn't know it was a rescue mission.
Well, it wasn't, but if it had been, you probably would have wished you had your binos.
I wished I had my binos the minute I get up there.
Easier to find the ravens.
See a big slide down across the canyon, a big slide. Whatever's at the bottom of that might be Jake.
Yeah, I left many butt prints on that mountain today.
It's like a dog with worms coming down the hill.
There's no relief though.
Well,
it was a cool hike today, though. It was worth it.
It was a great day, man.
Yeah.
It was a great day. It was even better when you messaged me. You said, I haven't seen a frigging thing yet. And I was like, yeah, I've been in elk all day. See you this evening.
Yeah.
That was when my just out of reach was working. Apparently it's not working now.
Right. I got that message like 5 more times after that. Yeah, I get it, man.
We get to the
old
tent.
News.
We get to the tent, and all of a sudden, after we get to the tent, and he says, "Yeah, I messaged you right away. I get 2 messages. Sounds good. I'll be there in 30 minutes." And then the next one was, "Bring effing beer." I was like, "Oh, hey, you want a beer?"
Shows up, no bow, no binos, and I'm like looking around. It's like he ain't getting beer either. Son of a bitch.
I just came to pick you up so you'd cook me dinner.
Yep. Yeah. No, man, I love being out in the woods this time of year. Like when it's not like super nasty, it's a cool time to be out and about.
If I had my druthers, it'd be about 10 degrees though. I mean, it doesn't feel right being down here when it's freaking 35. This is some cold country, and it's just
Yeah, it
seems
it was
to move
pretty
the game
awesome when
better.
the sun was out there for a couple hours today, though. I was like, man, I should have brought my sunglasses with me. It's like, this is nice.
I could have took some wicked selfies with my sunglasses.
Wicked.
But I pulled the old Kifaru pack up and leaned back on it. I was going to take a nap, and as my head went back, I was like, there's friggin' elk up there. That's when I saw those, and that's when they saw me. They were trying to take a nap. There's a friggin' guy down there.
I really wanted to start a fire today, but just like I never found like the spot where I really wanted to hang out, and I didn't. I'm glad I didn't now, because I think the longest I probably ever sat was 10 minutes today, and so I mean I was pretty much moving all day long.
Is that counting the ass prints you were putting on?
Well, yeah, you don't really. I mean, it's only 5 seconds at a time.
I'm telling you, man, these Timberline pants for kneeling in the snow and sliding on your ass and stuff. These freaking waterproof knees and waterproof ass. You might need them. The waterproof ass.
I'll tell you though, for folks that don't do this, that ever hunt in the snow, having that little chunk of Thermarest with you is the bomb, because like, so it snowed hard yesterday and then the sun didn't, because like a lot of times in this country, like you don't really, like the tree wells are melted out, but even on the south faces at the beginning of the day, the tree wells were melted out, so there was no place to sit down without snow. And man, you throw that thing down and it's like you can kick the snow out of the way and then throw that down and it's like your butt doesn't get wet,
and it's a little cushion,
it's a little cushy, it's warm.
Oh man,
it is, and it weighs nothing. It costs nothing. It's like,
Yeah,
man, it's the best
it's
thing. It is the best thing in the world.
Just a Thermarest and took a X-Acto knife, cut it in about thirds or something.
Yeah, about a third of a Thermarest, man, and it's, oh man, it is the best. Yeah, it's a lifesaver.
You're welcome.
Yep, no, it was...
Hey, I think I just got an inReach message. It's from you,
I'll
probably.
be here in 30 minutes.
I did. That son of a gun just went off. It's not an inReach. It's just out of reach.
It's barely reachable. Randomly reachable. You know, you were talking, and I know you did it on one of your podcasts, talking about, or maybe it was on a Instagram story about updating your.
Oh yeah.
Your firmware. I actually got an email that says, "Hey, you need to update your firmware on your."
Did you really?
Yeah, and so I had to download this other Garmin thing onto my laptop, but. It's kind of a big download, but once I did it, it was like it did it super fast, and it seems it's working.
Do you know what you have, like 2.8 or something?
No, it's like 2.14 or something like that.
Oh, no kidding?
Yeah.
See, I just redid mine before I left, but I think it's 2.8.
Yeah.
And that's irritating. When we were in the Frank Church this year and this spring, and that thing didn't work, I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. But I was glad to see that I got an email about it, because otherwise I would have never thought to do it. And because it doesn't, you just assume if you have it hooked up or whatever that it would do it automatically, but it doesn't.
So do you plug yours into the computer more than often?
No, I never plug mine into the computer, but it just knew that it was time. And so that's when I had to, download that program and do it. But it was super simple.
I think we've been talking for an hour.
It's good. It's good stuff, man.
Well, hunt ain't even over. I'm gonna kill something tomorrow. My calves.
Start talking about my old man pains tomorrow.
Those are like Martha Stewart boots.
These are the Alpha Burley Pros, bro.
Dude, you're gonna go gardening tomorrow?
They're camo lacrosse boots. What are you talking about?
Well, you and Martha Stewart. We're gonna make ornaments tomorrow or some shit?
I don't know what you're talking about. These things are great for shuffling back and forth. I'll tell you what though, these things are I actually read it on a review. Like the soles on these things are fine, like when you're out in the snow, but as I bought, reason I bought these was for like snow blowing and stuff, because I don't really have, like, my old white packs are like all ripped up and stuff. It's like, I don't want another pair of those. I never use them. And so it's like, I just need something to slip on that I can go outside in the wintertime. And they're awesome out in the snow, but man, you get up on the porch or go like walk in the garage with snow on your feet, you need to have your balance going on. They are slick.
Maybe you're just top heavy.
No. No, my center of gravity's right in the middle, bro.
Oh shoot! We're about ready to die. The batteries are.
Really?
Yeah. This machine was super cold. It was super cold. I'll put some new batteries in it.
Because you couldn't get a fire going in here for 3 hours.
Well, not all stoves are made equal.
Yeah, no, I think we're.
Well, you ought to get one like mine.
I think we're wood bound. I would like to get one like yours. That's a good stove.
That's a great stove. It's a 3-dog. I got it from Davis Tents, but I think Davis Tents makes their own stoves now. But that thing,
no, it's a good stove. No, because I mean, I got that other you remember that well casing stove that I have that weighs like 100 pounds. It's like it's all one guy can do to carry that thing from the back of the pickup, and it's a good stove. It was something that my dad ended up with that somehow, and he gave it to me.
This thing looks like it's built in a third world country.
Yeah,
with tires and stuff,
right?
Wheel rims and
they used to bake your Crocs in these.
This thing's made for dung in Africa. This is a dung stove.
No, and that stove. Well, and that stove has its drawbacks too. Like it burns a good fire, but because the steel is so thick, it's like a wood stove at home. It takes forever to like really start putting out heat, so it's not great for a wall tent.
Plus, once it's hot.
Plus, it's heavy as all. I mean, God, that thing is a tank. And so, so my dad gave me this one, which is just like the very standard old homemade sheepherder stove. Oh, you know what I found today? I found like an old fuel or water can. It's kind of cool.
Like a rectangle?
Like a 5-gallon square with a twisty top on one corner. Yeah, the top was all rusted out, and it was down it was like halfway buried into the duff underneath a big pine tree.
That's the cool thing about getting out, getting after it. You find cool stuff.
Yeah, it's like, well, and so I was telling Rob about this earlier. So the high peak that I hiked to today had an old lookout on it, which I'd never heard of. It doesn't even show up on the topo maps that I have, so I don't know what it was called. It's got an old stone foundation, but there's parts of the old telephone line are still in place up to it, and I noticed it pretty early on. Like there was two like pole looking like snags up on the hillside. It's like, those don't look natural, and sure enough, they were old poles. There must have not been enough trees.
Can you imagine digging
Oh no,
holes?
that's exactly what I was thinking,
gosh.
because like the one that I actually walked right up to, because I could see another one down the hill. The other one was right on top of the ridge. This huge rock outcrop behind it, and I'm like, some poor sucker had to dig probably a 3 or 4 foot hole. And they must have had to blast it, because I guarantee you could not dig a hole in that.
What kind of
ground.
wood do you think it was?
You know, it must have been like, I mean, you would think, because I mean, these things got to be old. I mean, they're probably from the 30s and 40s. So, I mean, I highly doubt that they packed, and you could tell that the top was axe cut.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And so I'm sure it was a Doug fir pole. Like they probably walked around, and because that's all that grew. There's pine, but like pine's not going to last, and so I think they probably found the right size Doug fir pole, cut them up there, and then dug or blast. They had to blast those holes. But man, you just think about these kids that were up there, like putting in these phone lines and digging these things, and they're probably doing it in the middle of the summer when it's 100 degrees up on those hillsides. It's
like you got water too.
Oh man, it's just like like the stuff that people used to do. It's like, man, there were some tough people back in the day. Tough people.
Yep, I'll second that.
Yeah.
I bet they had better wood stoves though.
Man, just because you can't get a fire going in this thing. Yeah, it's kind of lost the cherry red glow there, bro.
All right.
Better do something about it.
Let's shut this thing down.
All right.
All right, man, we're live.
Beautiful rainy day here in the heart of Idaho.
Unit 39.
39A.
39A. It's fantastic hunting here.
Oh, it's the best. It's almost as good as Colorado, right?
Almost. There's an elk behind every tree in Colorado. We didn't record last night because we had some company. We had a pretty good day yesterday. We came back, so we got back after dark. When we pull in, and there's a pickup over there, and they got a bonfire going. Well, not a bonfire. They just had a campfire. And you were doing something, I'm doing something here. I just heard a noise, and you're like, I think they just hollered your name.
Yeah.
So I went over there, and it was Benji and Autumn, Fawn Holes. So they just rolled in. I told them we were going to be in town, and had a couple of beers last night, shot the breeze, so we didn't get a chance to record.
Could have recorded some great stories if they would have.
Yeah.
Would have just recorded while they were here, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. Man, it is socked in. I can see out that hole. It is socked in. Yeah, because it's not enough pipe going through that hole.
My pipe is plenty big.
That is the smallest. I bet if you could do that, you could put what is that, a 3-inch?
That's a 4-inch pipe.
Oh, mine's 5-inch.
No, yours is probably 6.
No, it is 5 because it was a pain in the neck to buy.
Oh yeah, I didn't know there was such a thing as 5-inch.
Yeah.
bite.
Oh gosh, it was a pain to buy.
Huh.
But we've been hacking on his stove pretty good here. But it's warm.
It's warm.
Warm in the tent. It's not warm outside.
No, it is hypothermia weather out there. It's like I don't know, what was it, 36?
36.
Just raining. It's about 4 inches of snow on the ground. Awesome to crawl through.
Well, we got up this morning. It was snowing, a couple inches of kind of like wet, heavy snow, and well, that's not going to be too bad. But that didn't last. Where's my hat?
It's behind you. Under your shirt.
Good eye. My dew is a little out of control.
This is a view of my hunting future. I gotta read labels for Rob, find his stuff.
No different than the past, is it? So yesterday, so I had a good day. You know, when we split up a couple days prior, I got into some elk. So yesterday I was like, hey man, let's go back up to where I was at. And so we drove over there and unloaded the 4-wheeler at the bottom of the hill, and I ran all the gear up on the 4-wheeler because it's kind of a pull for the machine. And I got up there, and lo and behold, right where I was at yesterday, there was fresh tracks in the road. So I'm like, yeah, they're still here. Went down, got Jake, and headed up the hill. So we had picked that same ridge to go up because it's kind of like the least. What would be the word? Steep, but the least
horrible.
The least horrible. I mean, I post some pictures of this country, and it's pretty gnarly stuff. So the least horrible is a subjective.
Yeah, and we're used to steep stuff, but man, it's just such a big difference when that ground is rock, hard, frozen, and then you got crappy snow over the top of it. Like, it's just, yeah, it is. It just makes you look at things a lot differently, because it's like there's nothing you can't normally, aside from the really cliffy, rocky stuff. There's nothing you can't go up or down, in this part of the world. Like, but this time of year, there is stuff you can't go up and down. Yeah,
you talk to Gus, and he's had to quit cat hunting some parts of the year just because he says, somebody's gonna get killed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those open, grassy hillsides, like, I don't know. I don't want to test it out, especially because we're not wearing slick stuff, But, I mean, I've fallen, like, skiing and stuff before on some really slick stuff, and, like, it's amazing how far you can slide. So I don't know if you'd really slide on that stuff, but, man, you look at that and you got, like, 500 feet of nothing below you and that grass and snow. It's like, man, I don't know that I really want to go step out on that stuff.
Terminal velocity. You would reach terminal velocity. I'm gonna go with the fact that you're gonna break. I'm not sure you'd break the sound barrier because you'd hear me screaming after about 30 yards.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the worst part about that is it's not like just falling off a cliff or just splat. Like, you're just gonna slowly die on the way down the hill as you hit different things. Yeah.
So, anyways, we pull up that ridge and I broke out the
crampons.
I broke out the crampons for the first time, and that's going to be a learning experience right off the bat. I was like, man, this is awesome. Going straight, if you point your toes straight up, though, I felt like I was going to pop my Achilles heel tendon there. It was so, but you start sidestepping, and man, with confidence, it felt great. So we got up in there, spotted some elk. Wind was absolutely some of the worst washing machine wind I've ever seen.
Horrible.
And it comes into, I mean, we'll get into it, but when those cows wind us, that was insane.
Mm-hmm.
So we spotted them fairly early on and trying to make a play on them where they were at, and trying to come up with a plan on how to get to them. Probably took about 4 hours. 3 hours. Because we moseyed back up in that saddle, looked off the other side.
Yeah, we tried to go slow and easy, and I mean, we did everything right, really. I mean, getting over there, we super conservative, I think, where we went up through the trees just to make sure they couldn't see us, because they were, I don't know, probably 300 yards away when we like realized like they can see us if we cross this stuff, and so we cut back and went way up and around, which I thought was smart. And I was like, you feel like when they're bedded down like that, you have all day.
Yeah,
but we didn't have all day.
And they were bedded early.
They were, well, yeah, they were, because we probably saw them at
9 o'clock.
Yeah, boy, it couldn't have been much later than that. I don't remember, but yeah, it probably wasn't much later than 9 o'clock, and yeah, they were already bedded.
There was no moon. It's just a crescent moon. It wasn't like they fed all night. So yeah, we were seeing some cool country. Went over the other side there and glassed over that other side, and then we started we got to make a play, and we kind of came down on them at a 45-degree angle there and set up in the trees on that bench, and started cow calling, hoping to suck somebody up, because they at that time were like, man, somebody's got to be up and moving by now. It was about noon.
Yeah, it was later than noon by the time we got over there, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, it's probably like 1 o'clock, because I think we didn't hit the top of that till noonish when we ate a little bit. And
oh yeah. And then we had those deer we were worried about above us, a little forked horn buck and some other does, and they spent all day up feeding in 3 acres, all day,
if that.
Yeah, all day. So we set up the first time, and Jake was calling, and we probably sat there for 45 minutes, and the wind would just, it'd crank at times, but from all directions. All that snow was coming out of the trees and stuff.
I remember having a thought, though. It's like, the only time I like this wind, actually, is when it's at my back, because I had my hood up and everything. It's like, it's not so cold when it's at my back, but it's like, that's the one direction I really don't want it to blow from.
Well, I felt like with a wind like that, though, that was so strong, I got to feel like your scent particles just kind of like blown up, or I don't feel I wasn't too worried about it at that time.
The elk were still there, we knew that.
We slid. Then I decided, like, hey, I'm gonna move in, and I moved up and glassed and couldn't see nothing. Jake came up, and then we spotted a cow bedded, so they were still bedded, which was crazy. So now we got to push the issue. You put this much effort into getting up onto some elk. It's not like if you blow them out, you're just going to go find another stock, because you're committed when you're up in this stuff. So we slid around the hillside, started just moving, on their elevation, just real slow, kind of still hunting, and the wind was at this time really strong, coming up the canyon, which is good for us, and spotted that buck. So we spotted a buck about 80 yards down the hill. And then Jake spots a couple does there, so we got some critters right below us, and we're thinking maybe we'll make a play on them. Bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush, or something like that. Right? I say that right?
Is that right?
Yeah, one of the hands worth 2 in the bush. Yeah, you bet. So, so just before we're gonna make a play, I see an elk. They were like shoulder to shoulder feeding.
They were, yeah. Well, they're kind of feeding toward each other, it seemed like.
So it was a cow and a calf, and now the wind is hammering, right? I don't know how hard, but it's coming right in our face. Everything's perfect. We didn't even drop our packs. And that cow, this is amazing. That cow turns her head up the hill, and we're through the timber. It's not like she's going to see us. She turns her head up the hill, so the wind is at her back, maybe 10 miles an hour, and she starts sniffing and blows out.
Yeah, and I thought, I've had this happen even before, because it's like, do they know those deer are there? Like, are they aware of each other? And I've actually had deer blow out elk before.
Really?
I'm not sure that's what happened yesterday, because the wind was so squirrely.
Well, but they had to have seen each other. They were within feet of each other.
Yeah, I don't know. It was thick down in there. It's hard to say. I don't know. But I'm sure that cow ended up winding us, because it was just so squirrely down in there. And who knows, and we're in this kind of funnel, and who knows what the wind was doing. So, even if it was, good for us, it may have been swirling back somewhere, and we were close enough at that point. But anyway, it was like we barely saw the elk. Just started thinking about making a move, and then all of a sudden, you're just looking at bits and pieces of them through the binos down through the trees, and that cow puts her nose up, and the classic elk thing. There's always like this 10 seconds of like, are they gonna blow out? And then they always do. It's like if they look like they're gonna blow out, they're eventually gonna blow out.
At one time when we were set up calling, the wind was hammering pretty good at them, right? We didn't, I wasn't really concerned with them winding us if they were bedded where we thought they were or we knew they were. But it's blowing at my back, but I'm looking like 80 yards off where some of the snow comes out of the tree, and the fines are going like 90 degrees different.
Yeah, and you just wonder too, I was thinking about this, but you got the trees, and so there's like all this like, vorticity in the wind and stuff.
I don't think anybody's used that word.
Vorticity?
Vorticity.
That's a real word.
I'm going to Google that.
I love that word.
You use it often?
I do.
Daily basis.
Daily. Every time I flush the toilet. It's vorticity.
So they kind of blew out, and we ran. I really thought we'd see those deer because I didn't think they blew out that hard, and I thought those deer would, if they winded us uphill, they're going to come around that side. And I boogied around the side, got on a finger, play. And I thought really thought I was going to come over the edge and see some deer down there. But yeah, to no avail. Everything vanished.
Yeah, we never saw the elk again, which I thought was odd because the only way they could get away from us was to go straight down this pretty steep draw. I don't know. It just seems like elk don't normally do that. It's like sometimes they'll go down, but then they usually like side hill out.
Yeah.
As far as I could tell, I mean, did you cut their tracks when they were coming
never
out?
did.
Yeah. Mm-mm. So I don't know. They must have gone straight down the draw.
Of course, when I was coming out, I was not looking at tracks anymore. We'll get into that. But so then we didn't want to give up our elevation. We had a couple of hours of daylight, so we kind of side hill around in some fresh country, and you spotted some deer and put a. I thought that stock was going to come together.
A very long stock. But yeah, we saw some deer. There was this real tight little swale below us, and the deer were just on the other side of it, and they were actually feeding downhill. And so my whole plan was, I didn't really know how far it would be across that swale, but it was super tight. And so I thought, well, if I can just get up to where I can see off to the bottom edge of that swale, maybe if they do come down it, they'll be in range to have a shot. And I got up there, and they had kind of actually gone up the hill a little bit. And
you look like a puma stalking.
I felt like a puma.
You were crawling. I saw you scratch a cat hole once. Mm-hmm. You look like a puma.
I did. I was ready to pounce. But yeah, made a fairly, I don't know, a pretty long crawl through the snow.
I think you made it 20 feet.
Oh, come on.
No, it was cool. It was cool sitting back there. And I was videoing, and I thought, man, I was waiting for you to draw your bow. I thought it was going to happen.
Well, yeah, I thought it might too, because there was, and I started finally. I got up there and I couldn't find him. But that's the thing, and it actually kind of happened to me again today. It's like you use like these trees, like that are in between you and them for cover for stalking. When they're 100 yards or whatever away, but then when you get there, like, it's hard to find them again. and lo and behold, those deer were still there behind the trees. And but it took me, it probably took me 10 minutes to find them, like just glassing every little hole through those branches. And I finally saw an ear twitch, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're still there. And I was still hoping, there was one that was lower, and I was still hoping that one was down lower. But then I could also see some tracks, like where they'd come across, and then they started to move actually toward me. And it was a little bit of a poke over there, but it's like, yeah, it's close enough. I'll take a shot if they come across. I had my body in the right place, and it was nice and level across there. And it's like, I'll shoot if they come across there. And they just never did.
Well, that big boulder let loose.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's
just
right.
Out of the blue.
Yeah. So I'm up against this tree at this point in time. I'm well. I feel like I'm a really good spot if they come across. But the problem is I have these like two big fir branches to my right, and there's this rock outcrop that was kind of creating the funnel, and there was a deer that I hadn't accounted for. There was a third deer that I never saw.
Oh, she was further down the draw? You didn't see it?
No, she wasn't.
Oh.
She was just up there in the trees, and I never picked her out. And so there was a third deer that I hadn't been able to find, and so all of a sudden this rock cuts loose, and it was down in that swale, like that I originally thought that I could shoot across that. And so I'm like, I couldn't help myself. I'm like, I'm camouflaged up against the tree, but not if I move very much. But I couldn't help myself. This rock goes rolling down the hill. I was like, something must have rolled that rock down. And so I tried to do it as slow as possible, and then I got pegged by one of them. And then I'm like thinking, Rob threw a rock over there.
Well, they had to be
It's
on
like,
higher.
why is he drawing their attention toward me?
Because I'm a friend. That's how we operate. Yeah, all of a sudden you're just boom. I saw it. I heard it, and I looked over, and it was.
Oh, you actually saw it?
Yeah, it was twice the
okay.
size of a bowling ball, and it comes boom, boom down the draw, and I was like, that's not going to be helpful.
No, it wasn't helpful. It sucked all their attention toward me, and then I couldn't move, and so I ended up.
Cody Greenwood ought to run the numbers on the odds of that happening.
Yeah, I was like a negative 37%.
Yeah, so and then that was cool. That's cool watching somebody stalk, and I know what you mean. Like, there's been times where you move in on a bull or something, or you're slipping in, and then you lose faith. You're like, they're not there, and then you move, and they were there the whole time, and they blow out. So that's
yeah. No, I was happy that I was able to find him in there, but yeah, it just didn't work out. But then the funny thing, so it's like, finally, and then they've kind of got me. One of them has me pegged. The other one doesn't have any idea that I'm around. One of them has me pegged, and I'm like, well, I'll just slip. But I don't want to blow him out, but I was just like, this isn't going to happen. Like, that deer's never going to come toward me. And so I slip back down the hill, get back down. That deer runs right out to the spot
that you were
where I was hoping. She was actually probably 20 yards farther away, but I mean, in the general direction of where I was hoping they would come through, because like it's just curious, I guess. And so she comes out there, and then Rob turns around. He's like, well, I'm just gonna walk away. And I'm like, well, yeah, maybe she'll only realize that one of us walked away, and I was kind of sucked up against the log. And he goes down the hill, and she actually did, like, not long. I don't know if you saw this happen, but it wasn't like you hadn't gone probably 20 yards, and she came like 10, 15
Really?
yards down. I'm like, holy smokes, this is going to work. And she was going through the trees, and so I was able to hunker down and get in a better spot. And then, then she just stopped. And then
She knew you were no threat.
Yeah.
She saw you sneaking. It's like, that freaking puma ain't gonna cut it.
That puma doesn't look that fast.
That is a slow puma.
But then I tried doing the lost wallet trick after that, and she actually came toward me at one point again while I was going up there, and then I'm trying not to look at him very often, and I'm just wandering back and forth.
I thought you got hit in the head. At that point, I look over the hill, I'm like, what's he doing?
He's lost it.
He got hit in the head.
But she actually came a little closer to me for a while, and I'm like, man, this might work. I'm just going to keep trying it. But I'm trying not to, stare at him that much, and I'm just trying to wander back and forth. And at one point I look up, and I don't see him, and I keep moving, and they blew out of there. But it was worth a try.
And I was thinking today, you got to be the eternal optimist. I mean, this is no bow hunting is easy, and you got to. we shoot thousands and thousands of arrows, and we do all this preparation and stuff, and you got to remember that you're actually trying to get it within mountain lion striking distance from a critter that is alive because its senses are good.
And it survives that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So you gotta, if you don't have the right attitude, this would suck. But
my constant thought is like, what the hell else am I going to do? Especially this time of year, it's like I'm not going to go lay under a tree and take a nap. It's miserable out here. My feet are cold. It's like, why don't I just go crawl through the snow and get wetter and colder?
So when that's all over and those things blow out, we still got a little time, and it always sucks going back the way you came. But there's times where you go, you know what? We went up this ridge because it was really the only ridge you could go up. So let's walk out the main ridge and go down a ridge you can't go down. That's a good idea. So we get on the main ridge, and it was kind of cool up there, actually. I figured we might see some elk. And we started heading down the main ridge, and Jake's like, man, I'll just bail off the main ridge, and you bail off towards the wheeler down there and pick me up on the road. And, we're looking at the map, and at one point, Jake holds his fingers and he's like, well, the contour lines they're that far apart. I think it's doable. I was like, all right.
It's probably doable.
Yeah, so I put the crampons back in. But you actually, you realize your goal should be to outlive me.
Yeah?
Yes, because I already told you where I want my ashes spread.
Dude, I already figured out how I'm getting them down there.
So
It ain't by hiking down.
So this is a spot we always dream about going into in September, and there's times where we start in and we're like, no, that's a bad idea. So this September I said, hey man, do me a favor, will you promise me one thing? He's like, yeah. I said, when I die, will you put my ashes in the bottom? I want you to carry my ashes to the bottom. At one point I wanted my corpse in there, and you said you just throw me out of a plane.
I would.
Yeah, that would. It's not really what I want. So anyways.
That's what I wanted to do for a long time, though.
He screamed on the way out the plane.
Oh, I guess he wasn't dead yet.
That's good. That's good. And then light a fire at the bottom. You want ashes? You got ashes, brother. So you took off, and I wasn't real sure. I put those crampons back on, and I side-hilled out onto the ridge that I need to be on, and it was pretty cool. So the conditions had changed a little bit. It had warmed up, and the snow was pretty wet. And though I'm anxious to use these crampons more and learn how to move in them more. It's not something you're going to stock in, but to go up this stuff, it's just this level of traction that you've never experienced before. It's like going upstairs. So now I'm going down, and everything in your body says this isn't going to work. Angle, weight, gravity, it's not going to work. So I'm cruising down the stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is all right. But then I got into the really wet stuff, and then the grass, and I started to freaking lose it. The crampons were caking up with snow, and then so at like every fourth step, and you're sidestepping, it'd be full of snow, and your leg would just blow out. And that happened a couple times, and I was able to swing my other leg around and dig in. But it got to the point where I was going to throw my bow down and move down to it. I had one trekking pole, and I'm 400 yards from the bottom. I actually saw the wheeler, and it was so tense. Sweat was dripping off my nose. I was like, freaking every muscle in my body was tense. It sucked. Just to say it sucked.
Yeah, and it's hard to I was thinking about this because it's hard to imagine looking at ground that's not, like I said, like it's not cliffs, it's not rocks, and like being like worried about being on it. But like all the other times of the year that we hike this stuff, you can dig your feet into the ground, and it still kind of sucks. But like you don't ever feel like if I fall down, like this is a bad deal. Like on this stuff, like yeah, you fall down on it, it's like it's gonna be a bad deal. It's like maybe I need to start packing an ice axe. I can do self-arrest going down the hill.
And that was my thought with throwing the boat. I wanted two hands. I wanted two hands on that trekking pole in case I went down.
Grabbing grass.
Yeah, well, and that was the other thing. Is that grass is about 10 inches long, and it just lays right down. It just So I was able to eventually get into the creek bottom there, and when I got to the bottom, I don't know if I'll ever post it. I freaking hit my phone, and my knees were shaking, and I said that I am never, ever, ever, ever going to come down that particular ridge ever in my life, ever again.
Put an X on the map.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
And you know what? I hit elk tracks in the bottom, or just a couple hundred yards off the bottom, and they were freaking switchbacking. If an elk's got a switchback, that's bad.
Well, I remember some stuff where we came down off that super steep piece bear hunting this spring, and the game trail actually switchbacked. Like, I've never seen that before.
I'm trying to think of...
Oh, it was that day we went up as high as we could. It was a gnarly...
Oh, yes.
Well, it was the day you videoed those bowls.
Yeah.
And then we decided to come down a different way and got into that super steep, like that last part off into the creek. Yeah, and the elk trail was like switchbacking.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna be packing these crampons. And actually, when I looked at them, I thought, man, this is overkill. And we talked about maybe grinding the because you kind of feel like an idiot, right? You're not frickin' climbing ice, but they were so aggressive. I thought, man, I might just take a grinder of these. Well, after my initial go on them, I'm no longer going to be grinding. I might weld extensions on them.
Get the actual ice climbing one with the toe picks in there.
Yeah.
The whole deal.
So, this is going to be in my arsenal probably for spring bear at some point, and not September, but anytime I come into this country, I'll just say that.
Yeah, and I went down the main ridge, and, because I could see for a ways down there, and I saw it, like, before we actually separated, and there was, like, the only thing I could see was this big grassy thing going down off to the right. I'm like, man, I hope there's a different way off of here than that, or this is going to be a really bad idea. And I get down there, and I'm able to stay kind of just off the north side of the ridge, and the snow, like, in that drainage, there's more snow in that drainage than anywhere else we've been. It's kind of weird. And I was able to stay off the north side, and it's like, I don't know, the snow's like, I don't know, mid-calf deep, and it had gotten heavy that day.
Mid-calf on you is knee
right,
deep on
waist
me.
deep on you.
Waist deep.
But, it was enough that it gave you some purchase on it. It actually wasn't bad. As long as you didn't step on a stick or something underneath there, it wasn't bad going. And so I was able to stick to that north side, and then... But I got down to where that finger kind of took off to the right, and I don't see any option off to my left. And the thing is, so we're at the spot, we're at the confluence of two drainages. And so, like, it's all kind of north-sidey and more heavily timbered off to my left, but it is a lot more vertical down to the road going that way. And then it's like it's hot or burned, and there's a lot of logs and downfall. And I'm like, man... I mean, that may be where I have to go, but that's going to suck too. But at least I'm not going to... It's just going to suck. I'm not going to fall to my death.
Well, you pick trees. When you're going down, if you got a tree, you're like, I'm going to go above that tree, so if I do cut loose, I'm going to love that tree.
Yeah, and so I get down there and I realize that when I get to that spot that the main ridge, actually, that little grassy, horrible, super steep, but I can just see it, like, it rolls... It looks like something you just want to, like, go run down, but then, like, the last... 500 vertical feet, it's just like 100% slope right down to the road, and I'm like, I ain't going down that, and it's all grassy and open. But I was able to skirt that north side all the way down. I had one little sketchy kind of spot, and then it was enough over in the north side that there was the 9-bark brush growing up there. And I'll tell you what, as my dad used to call 9-bark down the hill brush, because you step on it and you go down the hill. That's what they always call. I didn't know it was 9-bark until I was 30 years old. But I always called it down the hill brush. But it's 9-bark. Yeah, and you don't want to step on that stuff, if it's even sort of wet. And I had to skip through some of that, but there was a place, and just like you said, it's like, well, I'm going to keep myself above those trees, so hopefully I'm right on the fall line above those trees, so if I fall down, I'll just hit those trees.
And love them.
But I'm counting how many other things I'd hit on the way toward those trees down there. But it actually wasn't too bad. And then, I hit the road, and I probably made it, a mile and a half down the road.
You were cranking.
Yeah.
You were cranking. Again, if I saw a deer, 100 yards off the road, and I walked up and shot it, or I don't have a deer tag, but like an elk, or that would be cool. I'd be good with that. But at the same time, it's all part of it. I mean, this is, you and I, like, we do both enjoy the adventure.
Yeah.
You know, I think.
Well, no. I mean, what else is there to...
This is not a high percentage hunt.
Yeah, this is not a high percentage hunt. But, at least, though, I mean, we were into... I guess we didn't see any... Did we see any elk the first day?
No, we covered all the low ground.
Yeah,
we were covering all the low ground.
But 3 out of 4 days of actual hunting, we had stalks on elk.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So that's actually better than bugle season in some ways.
Well, and here's another one. This is big country, and again, we hunt it because we like the adventure. But you got big country. That means there's a lot of country for the elk to inhabit, or the deer. Yeah, don't run the numbers on this, Cody. You ain't gonna come over here and like these odds.
No, and it's fairly. There's timbered country, but even the timber is kind of open, so it's just like you don't have tons of cover. So even like your stalking is
if we catch them in the rocks, you get stuff in the rocks, and you can kind of hide and get close, pop over the top. And I had a spike at 42 yards. On day 2 or 3 or whatever it was, and that's beating the odds. I mean, my stinky ass pack over there wasn't laying there. I probably got a shot.
Yeah,
probably killed him.
Yeah, but the thing is, another way to look at it is if we were rifle hunting.
Oh, God,
we could have killed elk 3 out of 4 days.
Yeah,
So easily killed elk 3 out of 4 days.
Yeah,
if you're rifle hunting. So there's opportunity there. It's just closing that distance, man. It's just it's tough.
We don't do it because it's easy. So yeah, and then Benji and Autumn were here last night. We had a great time, 3 or 4 hours telling stories and shooting the breeze, and got up this morning to some snow, and we were going to jump on the wheelers and go up that other canyon.
Yeah.
And that was the plan, but man, it was just like, you know what? I'm pretty sure today's going to turn to crap weather. Let's see if the snow move the elk. So we jumped the pickup and went up the canyon here. And
we drove
up the main canyon.
I don't know. What is that, like 12 miles? 15 miles up there, and
if we running that cat track.
Yeah.
If that cat track was fresher, who knows? You just take off, climb up through the rocks, see if he's got a kill there or something. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw a cat track, and then there's this spot that we actually saw the first day, but it wasn't as obvious what was going on. But out in the middle of the creek, and this is a big creek, it's all icy. Something had been out there like digging a hole, and I just assumed it was an otter that maybe killed a fish or something out there. But except I did notice when I saw it, it's not like red like it normally is.
Well, we thought,
it's like, but I didn't, it's like I didn't want to overthink it. So, but anyway, we go back up there today, and there's something dead underneath the ice.
I kind of think it was a mule deer because I could see hair.
Could you see some hair?
Yeah. I could see a bone in there, and
I kept
could
thinking
see some
maybe
hair.
It was a human. You could see some and hair flowing and eyeballs sticking out.
The right human would have been all right. But yeah, I was frozen in an ice jam, and the coyotes and stuff were working.
Yeah, just tore it up around there, and obviously it got chunks of meat because now there was actual blood on the ice today.
Yeah, and there was only about a 4-inch hole. They tore into that ice, but so we continued on up, and man, I really thought the critters would move because last night was miserable. It's dark, there's no moon, and there wasn't a lot moving until we got clear up there, and those elk came down in the road. So there's elk tracks in the road, and we bailed out and figured that they were further ahead than we thought they were. So we jumped back in the pickup and drove up and saw where they went back up the mountain and grabbed their stuff.
It was kind of a miracle they were still there, though, because we saw where they went up the mountain, and this big, huge, you're looking up, I don't know, probably 2,000 vertical feet and all this, mountainside and glassing all over. It's like, you don't see the elk. And
well, we know they're up there.
Yeah, we know they're up there somewhere, but it's just like, where are they at? And there's enough, draws and stuff, and like, well, so, we had just quickly pulled halfway off the road, and I get back in the truck, and I'm, we're pull off the side of the road better, and then, we're pulling gear out of the truck, slamming doors, locking the thing, and, my truck's, of course, beeping. Rob's like, I don't know, 10 yards in front of me, taking off down the road to where we were going to, because we were just going to go up and try to get to a spot, like we were going to get over this one ridge that kind of hid some country so that we could glass back in there and look up, and there's this weird little hidden basin in there that I didn't even really notice when we were first looking around because it was so close to us. And there's 2 elk standing there. Son of a bitch.
They got your peg.
They're right there. And one of them is looking away from me. One of them I know sees me, but it's kind of filtered through the trees, and I'm like, well, they might, if we just walk away from them, they might forget about us, and it's going to take us a little while to get up there. And sure enough, they were relaxed when we finally got up there.
Yeah, so we side hilled underneath this little finger and dropped our packs. Got to where we wanted to be, dropped our packs, and then you started creeping up there, and then you just went full on belly crawl.
Well, I had to. So
It's like 8 inches of wet freaking rain. It's raining out, and Jake's belly crawling. And I'm sitting on a rock. I'm like, yeah, you go for it, bro. You go, you puma, you.
Yeah, so I go belly crawling up through there because there's this weird. It's hard to describe, but there's this kind of small, low basin, and it's got this little finger ridge that separated it. And so we're just on the other side of it, and I got a good enough look at the elk and their location. It's like, well, if we go up this spot, they might be within range as soon as we kind of crest where we can see the elk. And you always think things are better before you get up there. But I could tell as we were starting to get closer to the top of the ridge, I'm like, that's not quite like the sharp little edge that we thought it was going to be. And so we stopped a little short. I got up there, and I'm thinking that the elk are going to be right in this little basin on the other side, and so I have to belly crawl because there's no cover. There's just the terrain cover between me and where they might be, and so I'm belly crawling up there, thinking that, man, and so I'm belly crawling with an arrow knocked and just moving my bow in front of me because it's literally at any point as that started to roll over, I might see an elk, and so I go through all that, and I'm looking close, and then finally I see an elk just up on the opposite hillside, and it's only, I don't know, that one was probably 150 yards away. And so I watch it, but then of course now I got something on this opposing face, and I have no cover between me and it except for some trees that were between me and it, and so I kind of side slip through the snow, find a spot where I can keep going up, and I get up to the top. And now I realize that there's at least 4 elk that are up on that hillside. And we know there's more than 4 elk because we saw the tracks in the snow. And so I'm still thinking oh man, they're going to be there. They're going to be there. And I get up, and then I get to a point where it's I can't go any farther because I'm so exposed to those ones that are on the opposing face that there's no way that I can get over the little roll, because I had this perfect log that was in front of me that, man, if I can just scurry along that log and look over, and the whole time I'm laying in this slushy
and it's raining.
And it's raining on top of me. Just miserable.
I wasn't. I was sitting on a rock
right.
with my Timberline pants with a waterproof butt.
Timberline pants, yeah. And Rod's been bragging about his waterproof knees the whole time, and I'm like, who needs waterproof knees? God, I wish I had waterproof knees right now.
Thanks. Now I got to edit that. Now, you were, did you have your bino harness on?
I did.
It acts like a plow,
It did. Well, so I stayed on my, I did the modified crawl and stayed on my left side.
You lean left?
More of a, what was funny.
Left leaning.
And then when I'm going out of there, so I get up there, and then now I realize there's 5 elk on this hillside, and some of them can sort of see where I'm at, some of them can't. And the only way I can get back out of here without blowing them out, because at this point it's there should be more than 5 elk, but I can't get closer to see if there's some below me, and I don't want to blow these out because at this point they have no idea I'm there. I've been, they don't know I'm there, so it's well, maybe they'll bed down. in a spot where we can make a different stock. So I got to come back down the hill, and the only thing I can do is just like slide back down the hill. And I just feel like, man, if those things see me, I just look like this brown worm going down through the snow.
You got it all wrong. You know what you look like? We're close to the river. You look like a beaver. Dragging that bow with a brown jacket. Dude, you were like full beaver flage.
Beaver flage. It's like the one thing I keep thinking is like, I can't look very threatening. Even if they can see me, it's like that thing is like just wiggling through the snow. It's like it's probably not a threat.
It's an impaired puma. Yeah, they're up on the hill like, hey, did you see that today?
What the hell was that?
What the hell was that?
Thought we'd seen everything.
Yeah. They're etching it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we walled around. I tried to slip up on them, too. And we just decided that, you know what? It's undoable.
I was so bummed you bailed out on that belly crawl, though. That was going to be an epically long belly crawl. I'm like, dude, I'm so going to like enjoy watching this happen.
I started to, and then I realized, like...
You didn't go 10 feet.
Yeah, but I realized, like, the one cow I was focused on...
Yeah, it was hopeless.
I was like, I can keep that tree between her and I, and then I get up there 10 feet, and I'm like, well, there's 4 more now that are...
Yeah, and they're constantly moving, and, like, there's no way to, like,
So then we backed up. I backed up, and he's like, let's just wait till they bed. And he looks at me and says, I'll bet you $10 she beds on that peak. And then 3 minutes later, she just bedded.
Slap! As soon as she hit the top, man, she like stood there looking around. Swamp! And I'm like, and there's like
game over.
There is no way to get to him at that point. And it was the lead cow too. I'm like, the lead cow lays down like ain't nobody ain't going anywhere else.
Yeah, it was game over. So, it was a crappy day. But at least we got, we got
a solid stock in.
Yeah. Yep. So there is a point though when it's just maneuvering into position as opposed to a stock. I'm not sure where that lies. Is a stock with anything under 100 yards, or if you have to claim a stock at 400 yards, it's not really a stock.
I don't know.
Unless you complete it.
True. I don't know. Everything I did was stalking.
It's more like skulking. It's different.
Worming.
You're the freaking impaired beaver.
Yeah.
Did you see that beaver?
If anybody see my body imprint coming down, because you can see it right from the road. It's like, what the hell happened up there?
Freaking, there's a 230-pound beaver.
Something slid down that hill. Sure did, backwards.
So, bottom line is, you gotta be the eternal optimist, and you gotta have fun. I mean, if you think you're just gonna come up here and sliver an elk, well, you ain't gonna do it from the truck. You ain't gonna do it from the couch.
Nope.
You never know what's gonna happen.
No, and it's fun being out this time of year. I mean, today wasn't a great day with it being, it's about as bad as, I mean, like we talked about, it's great if it's like, if it's really cold and dry, it's not that bad, like, especially if the sun's out, like, you can enjoy it, or if it's just, like, cold and snowing, it's not that bad, but like, when this in-between, like, rainy, wet stuff, and that snow is just, I mean, instantly, like, like wool glove goes into that snow, and instantly your hand's wet. I mean, there's like, it's
that's
just like
something we talked
in the
about.
river.
That's something we talked about on this trip. Is like the worst part about falling is knowing you have to put your hand down. I am close to letting my face hit first before my glove. I do not want my damn hand to get wet.
Yeah.
I'll post off my nose. But then we met Dave.
Yeah, it's funny.
Good dude, man.
He is a really good dude, and so I recognized him right. I didn't recognize who he was, but I recognized what he was as soon as I saw him, because he's an older guy. He's in his 60s.
He's probably late 60s.
A fit late 60s though, and I see his belt, and immediately I knew he was a old smoke jumper. This was like,
because he was keying in on McCall. He's like, you from McCall? And
and I looked at him, saw his belt, because for those of you who don't know, every smoke jumper, and I don't know if it's like, and I was never a smoke jumper, so I don't know the whole backstory on this. So if anybody out there, forgive me if you know better, but
Let us know.
like everyone,
Let us
like once they like graduate, they're through their rookie training, they get to make this belt because all the smoke jumpers know how to sew as well because they sew a lot of their own rigging and.
Oh, do they really?
Oh yeah, no, they have huge sewing shops and all the
Really?
jump bases. Yeah, they make a lot of their own gear. And so they make this belt, and it's got this very distinctive buckle that that I think is part of the parachute rigging. But anyway, like you always know, like if you're on a fire and you see somebody with that belt, it's like, oh, you are or used to be a smoke jumper. So anyway, I asked him. So anyway, we end up knowing a ton of the same people. We were on the same fire in California this year, and I'm like, that's crazy.
Oh, I didn't realize you guys were talking about this year.
Yeah, that was
damned.
in October.
So
Yeah.
When did he start jumping? Did he start jumping in the 70s?
Yeah.
I mean,
Late 70s, I don't recall.
you think about the technology we have today, and I was, around, we packed smoke jumpers out in the 90s, out of the Frank Church, but you think about jumping out of an airplane in the 70s on fires. I mean, gosh dang, they didn't have the weather that we do, knowledge of the weather, the equipment. I mean, dang.
What's funny though is that just until recently, the Forest Service smoke jumpers were jumping with basically the same stuff up till about 3 years ago that they were using in the 60s.
Really?
Exact same parachutes, exact same riggings, exact same everything. Yeah,
Guess they
minor
don't work.
modifications in some of their gear, but they just well, it's kind of a rabbit trail. But anyway, BLM jumpers, which he turned out to be, he went to Alaska, jumped out of Fairbanks for a long time, and they use square ram air chutes that are steerable. They also have to have forward speed. Forest Service jumpers that always use round chutes, which basically you have a little bit of steering ability, but you're basically, it's more in kind of a spiral down. You don't really have the ability to move forward. And just in the last couple of years, there's been a transition. It's called a ram air parachute that the jumpers. It's what you're used to seeing if you watch skydivers. They all have these square shaped chutes rather than the round
that they
ones.
can steer. I mean, I get that. So, man, that amazes me because you jumping into a forest, you're kind of going to want to steer.
Well, but there's
how often
I won't
do they
go
get
down,
hooked
I
up
won't
in
go down the
trees?
rabbit trail. But the thing is, with the ram air chute, you have to have about 4 miles an hour of forward air speed to keep it inflated. And with
there's a
the
danger
round
there?
chute, you can go down vertically, and so it made sense, like for folks that are jumping for Forest Service guys and gals that were jumping into small spots. They just had to have a really good spotter, make sure they're jumping in the right place, and then basically they just need to kind of spiral their way down into that thing. Whereas the BLM folks, Alaska and then in the Great Basin country, are going into stuff where they have a lot more open areas. It's much more maneuverable, so they can like land in a particular spot, but they're not necessarily needing to, like hit like a little meadow or something outside of the trees. So anyway, there
He
you
was
go.
a cool guy, and he has lived here for 30 years. And we talked
More
for
than
an hour.
that, he said since '66. He lived down here.
He said he went to school. He used to go to school with a pistol
Yep.
strapped to his hip.
Yep. Yeah. So it was a great guy. It was one of those things like, Rob will strike up a conversation with almost anyone, and I'll talk to basically no one. But every now and then, we end up stopping and talking to someone that's actually worth talking to. And this guy was one of them. Had some great.
He had some insight.
Yeah, he had some insight into this country. Really nice guy, and I think he enjoyed talking to us too. So
Well, he wouldn't let us go. I was hypothermic. It was freaking raining the whole hour and a half.
Yeah, we stood outside the truck in the rain.
I tried to get out twice. I'm like, well, we got you wet enough, Dave. We better go. Yeah, well, you ever been in a hot tent?
Arctic oven.
Yeah, Arctic oven. I've heard of those.
I never even heard that.
No, haven't you?
Before.
Yeah, they're pretty famous.
But yeah, guy spent a ton of years up in Fairbanks, hunting and doing stuff up there. Been all over the place. Cool guy. Yep, it was one of the few gems of the folks we run into. And then, like, yeah, then while we're talking to Dave, like somebody from
Be
east,
nice. You don't
somebody
know.
from east of here that looks like he should be in the mafia and Massachusetts drives by in a jacked up Dodge. I'm like, what are you people doing out here?
Oh, they were not going to get out and hunt. They didn't look like hunters.
No, they were both wearing t-shirts.
Why would you drive up here?
Yeah.
I mean, holy crap.
All right.
I don't even want to drive out of here.
Yeah. They're out wheeling,
I guess.
living the dream. They're probably going to go...
You think
They're probably going to
never-
go shoot their pistols they just picked up last week.
they got the serial numbers filed off? So do you think they ever come back out?
Not that I'm aware of.
Wow.
I'm sure they drove the loop. That looked like what they were doing. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just odd characters.
They're going to make it into the book?
Those ones? No.
Yeah.
No, it was just
Uneventful.
a quick
Observation.
inconvenience that I had to get out of the road for them because they were the. It's funny because like we've been in this place and we're on a road it's not really a main road, but when we first got here in the middle of the week, there's people driving the road constantly all day long. And now we're in the weekend. And there's nobody around. Like
Nobody's
we
dumb
drove
enough.
up the road first thing in the morning, drove back down. Those guys probably passed us at 2:30 in the afternoon, and they were the only other people that drove this road all day.
You're smart.
Smart.
Everybody else, stayed home on the couch.
Rob recorded a really funny video today. I hope it's posted somewhere.
I don't know where that came from. That comes from too much coffee.
I don't know what that was.
Well,
I had to admit it was
You were dying.
ridiculously funny. I couldn't stop laughing.
yeah. I don't think I could do that voice right now. I lost it.
Really?
That was a one-time.
A one-timer?
That was a one-timer. That was kind of like the oil filter. It's like, this is a one-timer. He says, "You've been working on that voice?" I'm like, dude, I got so much dumb stuff rolling around in my head. That's just one of that made it out.
It's like your time portal book that you're talking about.
Oh, I think that's a novel. I really do. I think there's potential there.
You can self-publish on Amazon anything these days.
No, I think I'm gonna sell this. I'm gonna sell this idea to Jack Carr. He might not pick it up. Somebody might. The dude that says there should be 3 billion people in the United States.
It was 1 billion.
No, it was 3.
No, it was 1 billion.
No, I'll bet you. He's not taking me up on the bet. You notice that?
No. I was thinking about something else. No, I will bet you it was a billion Americans.
I'm gonna say 3, and that bet is on for what are we betting?
Well, you owe me $10 already. So
$10? How do I owe you $10?
Because about that cow.
No, I didn't take that bet. I said you're right. I didn't take that bet.
Right.
Who the hell?
Never said
You
that
got
in your
selective
life.
memory. That's why you keep hunting with me.
It is. There's actually some. Oh God, what was I reading? I was reading something. There's actually some name for this. Oh, fading effect bias. It's where you don't remember the bad stuff. It's like a human nature thing. You like over time you remember the good stuff. And I've been aware of this since our guiding days because like every year I was never coming back. And I'm like,
That's a
I
fact,
cannot wait to get out
That
of
was a
here, and I
fact,
am
man.
never setting foot in this place again.
Is that why women have more than one baby?
Right. Yeah, it's
I
fading
gotcha.
effect bias. You don't remember which is a good thing.
No, that's a fancy word for glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, yeah. So I have fading effect bias. That's why.
That's why you look forward to.
Three times this year I've been out with you.
You don't have to say going out with you. That's
I
weird.
said been out with you.
Same thing.
No. Been hunting.
There you go. It's the first time we've taken your tent with a small pipe.
My pipe is plenty big.
Your pipe is inadequate
I
to
don't care
draft
what
this
anyone
stove.
says. Think it would actually draft better if it had a bigger pipe on it.
I do. I think if you weld a 5-inch collar on there, I would go with 6 because that 5-inch pipe is tough to find.
Yeah, there is I think they do make a 4 to 6 inch. Oh yeah, I actually found one because I was thinking about that because, well, yeah. So you have stayed in this tent before because remember when it got caught on fire?
Oh, this is the tent?
This is the tent.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so.
That's funny. I didn't realize this was a tent.
Quick little aside here, but this has been, I don't know, it's more than 10 years ago.
That was a good trip.
We go steelhead fishing. Rob brings a buddy of his down. I bring a buddy of mine out.
Who was it?
It was Pete. Scholl,
okay, yeah.
And then Dell was there. Yeah. And
you and I
we meet over on a river to go steelhead fishing in February, and bring the wall tent. I had Rob bring, I don't know. Pete brought a stove. Because I didn't want to use because I had this other crappy super heavy stove. Pete brought a stove, and so it had a 6-inch pipe, and so my cutout for the little collar that goes through the roof was only cut out for 4, so we had to cut it out for 6 inches. And so anyway, cut it out, get the stove up, leave Dell and Pete there.
You're screwing this story up.
No, I'm not.
Yes, it was because it was the rolled up fabric above it.
Just stop.
Okay.
So anyway, my lantern's broke, and that's so right. It's the only lantern that we brought. We don't have a lantern, so Rob and I and we're not in the middle of nowhere. We're on highways, and so we go drive to town to go see if we can find a lantern, and just as we couldn't find anything, just as we come back up
we're just pulling in,
and there's a pandemonium outside the tent and people running around and what's going on? Oh, your tent just caught on fire. And
it was brand new, wasn't it?
It wasn't brand new, but it was only a couple years old, and it had the roll for the flap that you can put over the stove hole when you don't have the stovepipe through it. It had fallen against the wood stove, but those guys had, because I walked into the tent after they told me what happened. It was 95 degrees in here. It was so hot. It's we don't know what happened. And so anyway, they catch the tent on fire. Luckily, they're both able guys. They found, they got the water jug and threw enough water on it to put out the fire before it caught the whole rest of the tent on fire. And all it did was burn off that flap, which I cut the rest of it off. But yeah, it nearly came back to a completely burnt down tent. And there was, and with those two guys, there was drinking involved while we were gone and everything else. And I just remember thinking, it's I think the water can was right next to the gas can. I'm glad you grabbed the right one.
Yeah, I do remember that. We talked about the gas can sitting there.
Yeah. So yeah, this tent nearly burnt down. It was plenty warm. Remember Dell catching that?
Yes.
What was that next morning? Catching that nearly that water
lethargic.
Was so cold, and he caught that. They caught that steel. That guy can catch fish like nobody I've ever met, man.
Nobody could. Remember we tried the day before.
Yeah.
It's sitting in that hole.
Catches this the water is 32.5 degrees, and so the fish are just barely functioning, and he manages to catch this big, pretty hen steelhead.
She was lethargic when he pulled her out.
Yeah.
It's just a flopping.
Mm-hmm.
Did we have your boat on that trip?
No, it was before.
We were just bank fishing? Why would we have a can of gas?
Well, I didn't have a motor for the boat, but I don't know why we had a can of gas. Oh, it's because that lantern I could use unleaded in the lantern that didn't work. And no, we must have had my boat. Yeah, I did. I dragged the boat over there. But yeah, it's just I think because where we were camped, it was convenient to fish the boatable river plus the non-boatable river, and so we fished both of them.
So we had all 4 guys in your boat?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Yep. I fished 4 guys out of that boat a bunch of times.
Well, I'll tell you what, this weather is more like steelhead fishing than it is elk hunting.
It is, for sure.
It's pouring right now, if you can't hear it.
Well, the good part is we get to break all this stuff down in the morning.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Tent's probably gonna be all crunchy.
Just like I slipped in undetected, I might just slip out in the morning. Leave you holding the frickin' bag. Hey, I'll catch you in the springtime when we do some bear hunting. You won't be pissed at me by then, will you?
Fading effect bias may not be that strong.
You got anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it all.
All right. Roger out.